we are back with another nonsensical production. In this video, we will be going over a stream from August 17th, 2024. This stream took place on Allegedly with Britney J. She initially was going to be going over screenshots that had been leaked of Tony Mathis, the PR spokesperson for Seth Rogers, the biological father of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, the missing child from Hendersonville, Tennessee. But before her live stream even got started, there was some chaos and confusion that ensued. I'm sure there will be a lot of strong opinions based on what we saw on August 17th. But I wanted to take us a step back, and I'm including some clips that I hope will explain a bigger situation that I've been seeing happening all along, and I'm sure many of you have too. Let's go. This might seem really one-sided, but this is Seth Rogers' PR spokesperson. So this will be a discussion about Seth and Tony predominantly.
That's what I have gone to bat and taken a lot of shit. And I believe in standing up for what's right when it comes to the parents and stuff like that.
Actually, Britney, you've taken a lot of shit because of your behavior and your actions. And as far as you standing up for the parents, let's just take a little look-see back and see how you treat the parents. I mean, it's been pretty obvious you've been very one-sided this entire story. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here's some clips to show this.
Please take a moment to vote and let me know what you think. Do you believe that YouTube is being too hard, or subscribers and creators alike are being too hard on the Proudfoots? I personally, I'm not, listen, no one should go harass these people. No one should go to their house and bother them. No one should, harass them or, bully them in any way, shape, or form at all. But
seems like there's always a but in there.
I do think when things they're not right, when we've caught the parents in lies, outright lies, when we have the parents going around trying to bully creators and citizen journalists into not being able to speak out about a missing child, there's something wrong.
Just a quick reminder, we just heard her say that she believes in standing up for what is right when it comes to the parents of a missing child.
Me and Lucky Lady agree. So I guess that's what I want to ask for the poll tonight before we start, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I'm kind of on the same page with Lucky Lady. I have not seen Betty do anything that constitutes as harassment against the Proudfoots. I haven't even seen her close to them.
I guess this is her standing up for what's right again, because she sees nothing wrong with what Betty was doing, right? No harassment whatsoever. And yes, this was after the TPOs were filed on Betty by the family of the missing child. And obviously they had enough for the court to even initially grant the orders.
So, all right, I'm going to ask, do you think the Proudfoots have grounds for a PO protection order against Betty? Because I don't. Unless there's something that I don't know that we haven't been told, I don't.
Well, obviously a judge in Sumner County disagreed with you because just based on the evidence that they were shown when requesting the TPOs, the judge granted the TPOs. So obviously there's probably a lot we don't know.
I don't. I'm sorry. And listen, I don't like things Betty does, but what has she done in this situation that constitutes as harassing the Proudfoots? I haven't seen her go on their property. I have not seen her following them around. Nothing like that. According to her, she's never even spoke to Katie at all. She's only had a few conversations with Chris. So, I mean,
she actually did go on their property.
I want to point out to you guys that, because somebody said that they're so angry, it seems like the Proudfoots are more emotional and upset about the people than they are Sebastian. And this is probably going to piss some people off, but I don't even care. They have been that way since day one. I mean, every interview that you've listened to that was supposed to be to get the word out for Sebastian was more of a PR stunt. It was more about, winning over the approval of the public, right? Like constantly ask me the hard questions. We don't, we'll answer anything you want.
And that was just another truly disgusting comment by Britney J. She has been so biased all along throughout this story, she can't even see her way out. But just take note of what she said about the PR stunt for later. I just wanted to remind you of some things of where she actually stood and has stood all along. But let's get back into the stream from the 17th.
And hold on a minute. Wait a minute. I haven't even had the wait a minute, y'all. I haven't even been given the opportunity to go through these things and discuss it. I haven't even started my live stream out. So if there's anybody that's saying that I'm accusing anybody of doing anything, how am I supposed to know about what's going on and what's true or what's not if I can't ask questions? That's a problem. We have to be willing to, regardless of our personal feelings, we have to be willing to ask questions.
So at the beginning of this stream, Britney was concerned about showing proofs, in her words, that somebody had tried to gain access to her Patreon. Meanwhile, Seth Rogers, the biological father, who she has stood very strongly with, came in the chat and was upset about the thumbnail and the title of her video that he and his PR spokesperson, Tony Mathis, were tagged in. So as Britney is unfolding over this somebody gaining access to her Patreon or attempted to do, Seth was kind of melting and making some comments in the comments section. He was very unhappy that she was going to be discussing these supposed leaked messages of Tony Mathis, his PR spokesperson. And you will see in the comments above, that was just a few of the ones he was making. And at the beginning of the stream, he still had his moderator wrench. You can see by his 2 comments that I've put on the screen that he was very upset. He decided to self-promote and check out of the stream. Well, let's carry on.
Well, that's, you do what you need to do, Seth, honestly. Am I not supposed to ask questions?
Others have thought that Britney was a part of Seth's team. For me personally, I have never seen her as a part of the team. I think she was just conveniently used for pushing a narrative by Seth and his team. But I don't think she was ever in the know or a part of what I would consider Seth's team.
That's what honorable people do, is take a lot of shit. That's exactly what Tony and Seth do, is take a lot of shit that serves no purpose but to stress someone out. I feel like Tony is Seth, I think you're very strong without your team. However, I understand just wanting to help so bad you take it from anyone. I mean, am I just supposed to not ask questions? These screenshots they're damning.
Well, I'm sure it was a little shocking to Seth because you haven't been asking questions. You've just been going along with whatever they said that made him look like the grieving father. But maybe Seth doesn't realize this isn't the first time you've talked shit on Tony Mathis.
Okay, what Steven said was that Tony did not take the picture. He didn't say he didn't send the picture out.
The upcoming clip is from Titanium Built. Stephen Crabtree went on Titanium Built's channel for an interview, and this is actually what he said. It's important for transparency purposes to show what was actually said, especially about a photo such as this.
Yeah,
there's a lot more than that. But
so now I have to ask you about the Caleb picture, because I heard there's a Caleb picture. Mm-hmm. Is it out there? Mm-hmm. Like on the interwebs? I don't want to see that. No, Lord have mercy.
I'll never.
There's a picture. Just to let you guys in the chat know, I don't know if you guys in the chat have heard, but we covered the Caleb Harris case. Like since 3 days after he went missing, since the first news cast, Randy Harris went on for News Nation. We started covering it like that night. There's a photo, I guess, going around of Caleb in the well, the sewage well. And I heard that Tony was putting that out, but I don't know that for sure. Like I don't know who, that's just who I've heard. But I've only heard that from like 1 or 2 people. So I don't know if TikTok is, because I know TikTok, I feel like, is bigger on this stuff. I feel like sometimes with Tony, and then YouTube is just kind of, we're just here like listening in, like in a way, because he doesn't really come to this platform with that.
Did Tony put it out to the public media, like people? No, he didn't. And I'm not taking up for him there. I'm just saying, I know he did not take that image put out because it was on the help find, or the missing page for Caleb Harris. Somebody seen it go on there and immediately removed it. They had to get it taken down. Yeah, so it's frustrating.
Caleb's family could saw that. Like, I mean, it shouldn't be on the internet at all.
So that is actually what Stephen Crabtree said about this photo of Caleb Harris. But I agree with Titanium Built that the photo should have never been released whatsoever as is. And why that was even mentioned was there was rumors going around that Tony was passing pictures of Caleb Harris around in DMs. Tony at one point in time was the Harris family spokesperson. He is no longer in that position. And unfortunately, as many of you know, Caleb Harris was found deceased. And my best wishes go out to his parents, Randy and Becky.
This is horrible. Right. I haven't even had an opportunity I have yet to even go through anything. But what I was honestly hoping to get from tonight was the opportunity to ask Seth the questions, but he's not even going to allow me to ask the questions. If I'm going to stand up and defend you, can you not answer some questions for me?
Obviously, Seth and Tony didn't feel that they owed her any answers or any explanations, so they were not happy about this. Yes, I cut out a big portion of this front section and did its own little video correcting some of BJ's lies in the beginning of the stream. If you're interested, you can check that out.
This is insanity. I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed.
I'm not exactly sure what Britney is disappointed in. All along, it has been the Seth Rogers show. In my opinion, it has kind of been the horse and pony show all along. Still kind of confused on how Britney thought she was going to be any different than the previous creators that questioned Seth and he threw a fit and turned on. Not sure how she thought she was going to be different. And a lot of those creators were actually a part of the foundational team.
And it's not, and that's the sad part, Ginger. That's the sad part of all of this, Ginger. Ginger says, I'm sorry, but trust is earned, and Tony has done nothing to earn my respect or trust. I really hate that Seth seems to trust him so much. Right. That's the thing. It's not even about Seth. How did I start my live out tonight, you guys? I said, it's not even about Seth. Everybody be respectful towards him. This is more about Tony, and I have questions. I saw some things today that I'm very uncomfortable with.
For her to try to say that this isn't about Seth, meanwhile, this is a direct reflection of Seth, considering this is his spokesperson. What's maddening is it becomes everything about Seth, Tony, and Britney instead of Sebastian once again.
Very. If you, and I'm not even given the opportunity. Seth said you could email him. And then I'm still going to sit here and be lambasted publicly.
And the dramatics of Britney J once again.
I don't think people realize how much us creators, we take a lot of heat for continuing to support. And the worse it gets, the more these allegations come to light, it looks like we support this stuff. And I don't. I've sat silent for a while. Tony is a manipulative asshole.
Pam, stop with the antics. You take backlash because of your own words and your actions, not because of supporting Seth Rogers. And to even attempt to guilt trip him that you blindly followed and went along with everything that they pushed and are just now questioning stuff isn't his fault. That's your own once again. And by the way, this isn't the first time you've questioned Tony.
And I'm sorry, I cannot support Tony Mathis. If that makes me a bad person, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It breaks my heart that Seth is so trusting of this man.
So at the beginning of this video, she starts off saying she will not support Tony Mathis. By the end of this video, that greatly changes. But just for funsies, let's take a look back at another clip of BJ talking about Tony. Oh man, this happened.
Sorry, I don't like Tony. He makes me gag.
I don't like Tony either.
It wasn't the first time that Britney had expressed her dislike of Tony. That was a conversation between her and her mod, who is also a mod for Pascal, T-Rev, and so on. They had been talking about Tony before all of this kicked off.
Here's the thing, too. I don't have a contact for Seth. I don't talk to Seth outside of the YouTube channel, outside of my live streams. Give me just a second, guys. I apologize.
At first, I wasn't sure she was being honest here, but I genuinely believe that Seth probably didn't have contact with her because they didn't trust her. I think she was just a pawn in their many games. And hopefully by the end of this, you will see what I mean.
Okay, I'm to show them in just a second, Jules. They're damning. I'm not going to lie. She says, what are the screenshots? I had no idea what went down other than Creepy Tony is spreading photos of a dead kid. How disgusting. So there are screenshots. Okay, so there's supposedly a person who was in a group with Tony who said they were fed up. And they gave screenshots of a private chat that they had. And Cluminati went live and she shared these screenshots. And Queen Bee shared them today. And I see you, Yankee Kyle. And in these screenshots, it's talking about they paid Bullhorn Betty to chase down the Bowerfoots.
One of the screenshots going around is on your screen right now. It is a Venmo transaction from Tony Mathis to Bullhorn Betty. You will notice that he paid her $50. In the memo section says, beating up bee socks. We will discuss that further as we get into this video, and I will also include another snippet of a video of where this belongs. You're going to have to make up your opinion if this is technically paying Betty to follow the Bowersocks and Proudfoots. Tony has also sent super chats to Betty with memos stating Seth and him support what she has been doing. In my opinion, Tony and Seth have been very public and very proud about supporting Betty and her antics as of recently.
And Tony was trying to get several creators kicked off of YouTube for speaking out against Seth. I'm sorry, the shady dealings behind the scenes. It's just, we're going to go through it. Like, hey, ATS News, I can't, people can say what they want to say about me. Fine. If you don't like me, fine. But I stand on the principles and things that I believe in.
So she opens up this stream saying that she will be going over these screenshots that have been leaked. And then she also talks about how she's standing on her principles. Well, I wonder where those principles went by the end of this stream. Oh, wait. In my opinion, they were non-existent all along.
And
Britney, you have every right to do your channel like you want to.
I can't get behind it. I cannot get behind it. And honestly, what I wanted to come on here and do, because I know Seth was a mod here, I was hoping he could come and be like, Britney, give me some explanations. So then I could be like, hey, this is this and this and this is that. And they won't even, he just dipped out before I could even talk.
But you said in the beginning of this wasn't about Seth. And now you're saying because Seth was a mod there and has a wrench, you were hoping that he would come over and answer the questions that you have about his spokesperson. Make it make sense. And make sure you have your helmets on because the circus is coming to town.
Brittany, there's something that's concerning me. And yes, I did text you privately just so you take a peek at that. But something is kind of worrying me because I've asked it 3 times in chat now and it's been ignored. Seth, I'd like a yes or no question. Have you been made to sign anything between Bullhorn Betty and or Tony Mathis? Just a yes or no. Have you signed something that's keeping you from speaking up? Because I feel like you are, especially since you and I have gone back and forth. You have been in my comments. I've been, actually kind of changed my mind on you. I think your hands are tied. I feel like you signed something with somebody. And I watched this go down in another case. So I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. I just like a yes or no. That won't get you in trouble. Have you signed a document with anybody? Yes or no? I know you're in here. Please answer. Because that will help you if you just answer. And don't lie because it will come out. It will come out. So don't lie.
Enter Cher of Voices Behind the Wall. Get your tinfoil out because Cher will constantly try to link 2 missing children's cases from Tennessee together in this live stream. But she wanted Seth to answer if he had signed anything for anybody.
This is very mimicking of the Wells, don't you think, after everyone had NDAs thrown in their face?
Yeah,
he won't answer that. He's been quiet on that comment. Why?
Honestly, after all of the stuff that has come out,
everyone's thinking I'm crazy, but I've watched it go down in other cases. You can think I'm crazy. I'm asking the question for a purpose.
Well, with that thing, and listen, guys, don't think about Seth. Think about Tony Mathis right now.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying Seth has his hands tied. I'm not putting nothing on Seth. I think Seth might have got into something that maybe he can't speak up. I don't know, but I watched it go down in multiple cases.
If there are shady dealings going on behind the scenes to take creators off of YouTube, I want no part in it. Saying that nobody owes us an explanation. If that stuff is happening, everybody has a right to know that.
I'm not exactly sure how anyone is shocked by shady dealings going on behind the scenes because they've also been happening very publicly. We have watched Tony Mathis and his team on TikTok dox other creators that spoke out against things that were happening and so on numerous times. We've also watched Tony Mathis be the huge source of misinformation that is being pushed out in Sebastian Rogers' missing case. At this point, supposedly Seth had left the chat and was not answering questions anymore.
I
Do
don't
you have
blindly,
Seth's email? He told you could. He said he would email with you, but maybe
I
you
don't
could
have
talk
his
privately.
I don't have his email. Like
No.
no. That's what I'm saying. I'd never talked to him outside. Maybe Justin might have a contact.
Do you see
And-
the chat? Literally everyone thinks I'm absolutely crazy and saying they're leaving your chat, all because I asked if there was a document signed, as
Do
if we
y'all think
hadn't
that
seen
it's-
that happen before.
Do y'all really think it's out of the realm of possibilities that someone would sign something for another? I mean, it happens all the time.
Listen,
Truly, it is none of our business if their husband forms signed. Seth intentionally brought all of his team members on. He has been very public about that.
Busby said, Brittany, I personally wouldn't ever add a parent of any case as a mod. Let me explain that. The only reason that I ever added him as a mod wasn't because it was to get, special treatment from one of the parents. We added him as a mod because there's about 50 Seth Rogers fake accounts. Seth was added as a mod, so we'd know it was him when he came in.
and it
That
gives
was-
them a fair playing field too.
Yeah. So
And yes, that is true. There is many clones of Seth Rogers running around in chats trolling people. But I also consider this posturing. She gave Seth a wrench in her chat so people would know that he supported her. That is my opinion, and it will not change.
it wasn't because
You
know
have
what I mean,
Tony
was
in
trying
your
to get him
chat.
good.
Tony's in your chat. You want to make sure that's legitly him. He's
Is
saying
that-
nobody has signed anything on either side. Why is Tony in here answering that, not Seth?
Okay, if that's really Tony, I
That's
want to
weird.
know. Would Tony answer these questions regarding the screenshots that have come out?
I'll just mute because I'm good at biting my tongue.
Tony Mathis, who is the spokesperson for Seth Rogers, has now entered the chat. Originally, Britney claimed this was not about Seth Rogers. It was to question these screenshots that had been leaked of Tony Mathis. Cher is attempting to demand answers from Seth, who it looks like has exited the chat, but in comes his spokesperson. And this is where I personally believe that damage control was attempting to be done by the cleanup crew.
Is that really Tony? I need one of my mods to check and make sure that's really Tony. We do. I mean, I'm actually very kind of sad that I'm seeing so many people get upset about that, guys. We're in true crime. We have to ask questions.
So I guess because Britney decided to claim she's true crime that day, she is now deciding to ask questions. Meanwhile, what have you been doing all along? Oh, wait, blindly following whatever narrative they've pushed out there? Gotcha.
Be very careful. That may not be. That's why I need one of my mods to double check. And I want to, if that really is Tony, okay, is that free to come and go on either side? Well, let me ask you this, Tony. Did you pay Bullhorn Betty to
Yes.
follow the Bower socks?
So Tony is in the chat clarifying that nothing has been signed on either side. It's interesting to me to watch them demand answers from Tony, Seth's PR person.
Accounts 2019, Mandy said.
Tony, why did you answer my question and not Seth's? Why'd you come in here and say there's no document signed, but you did say on Pascal's that there was an engagement letter signed? I ask questions I already know the answer to, and everyone can go ahead and hate me. I don't give a crap.
Cher states that there was a mention of an engagement letter signed on a Pascal stream. I did go back to try to find those and could not find that specific spot that she was talking about. But according to Cher, she doesn't ask questions that she doesn't already know the answers to. Sure, Jan.
So y'all said you had Seth's back. So y'all said you had Seth's back in here. Then
That's
you
not
questioned
fair.
shit. Illuminati has a party, and good Lord, no. It ain't about Illuminati. It's the screenshots that I saw. Lucky lady, do you know how much backlash I take for supporting Seth? If I'm going to support him, I'm not. First of all, I'm not going to support anybody blindly. Anybody, if there's a cause for concern, I'm going to ask questions because that's what we should do. We all should ask questions.
Britney once again states that she doesn't support anyone blindly. However, that is exactly what she's been doing all along in this case. There has been numerous things that have been questionable from Seth or Seth's team all along. She has actively attempted to avoid or act like those things are not happening. Meanwhile, she continued to question every single thing that the Proudfoot family has done. And this, my friends, is what we call very biased and unethical. But remember, in the beginning of this, she told us she stands for what is right when it comes to the families. Sure. All of this fuckery has been going on from the very beginning. Look at the team. Look at the list of team members that have came and went and the drama surrounding each one of their exits. And again, I remind you, Seth Rogers has publicly stated He hand selected every member of his team himself. He is the boss of the show.
All right, I'm
Exactly.
gonna jump down. I'll be watching. I got my answer. Absolutely, something was signed. Tony's a liar. Bye.
Bye.
So Tony states nothing was signed, but Cher decides to say, yep, I got my answer. Something was definitely signed, and jumps off. Unfortunately, she does come back. To the chat, do you think we are owed answers whether Seth signed something or not?
Tony Mathis, this is what happens when you're a scam artist. And can you show this? Yeah, let's just go through the screenshots. Let's go through the screenshots. Hold on a minute.
So Tony Mathis is in the chat. The chat is going sideways. And Britney says, okay, let's just go through these screenshots. Now watch how all of this plays out.
I'm going to pull up, and I have to pull up Cluminati's chat because she's the one that showed them. If one of the mods wants to grab the link. I'm not demanding answers. I am asking questions. Because we have a right to ask questions. Wait a minute. Hold on, Feisty Nana. What the hell are y'all going to do if it turns out Seth is behind Sebastian's disappearance? Then he needs to go to jail. Whoever's behind it needs to go to jail. I don't talk to Seth on a regular basis. I don't have any outside contact with Seth Rogers. Okay, I haven't been personally involved in any way at all. The most that you can say that I've done is handed a wrench over to him so that we can know who he is.
It's also a fair statement to say that you put blinders on when it came to anything questionable about Seth because it benefited you and your channel growth, didn't it, Britney?
That looks like the real Tony Mathis account. Tony, you are welcome to come up and defend yourself. I will gladly open my panel to you. I would absolutely love to be able to ask these questions so we can put it to rest now.
So once Britney's mods finally confirm that that is the real Tony Mathis, Britney invites Tony on panel to ask him these questions and clear things up. Do you think that ever gets done? Don't worry, if you don't know, you're about to get the answers.
Tony, would you like for me to drop you the link? I'll gladly let you come up. And we will be respectful. I just don't understand why all of this is being said. It's being said that you are trying to get people to take other channels down. Regardless of my feelings for anybody, nobody's channel should go down because they dislike a person.
I mean, is anybody really shocked that they would want to try to get channels down?
All right, there's Jules. Hey, girl.
How are you?
A nervous wreck?
Don't be nervous.
A lot.
Yeah, don't be nervous.
Have you heard about any of this?
I have, well, what I heard was that there were pictures going around, that there was a photograph that was taken. And I thought at the time, if that's true, it would be all deals off with him.
Yeah.
All deals. Like no conversation even.
And now enter allegedly innocent, aka Jules, who is supposedly a mental health professional, who has been very critical of Tony Mathis and very publicly stating things about Tony Mathis and her hate of Chris Broadfoot.
Hey, Tony.
How are you?
Good. I appreciate you coming up.
No problem.
Okay, so are you aware of everything the screenshots and all of these allegations that have been made? Have you heard about it?
Brittany, I got to be honest with you. When I saw your live pop up, I had no clue what you were talking about, but I can tell you that I can answer a few questions for you.
Okay.
The lady that said that I said there was an engagement letter signed on Pascal, there's going to be a lot of things that are just completely not true, but that's the first one.
Okay.
And there are receipts to that. You can go back and watch Pascal's show. I simply said that Pascal is the one that introduced us. There's never been an engagement letter signed. I'm free to quit donating my time and money anytime that I see fit. And Seth is free to get rid of me anytime he sees fit. It's a volunteer job, and there is no money or contracts that have ever changed hands.
I personally don't think that Tony's role is very well defined. He originally called himself Seth's spiritual advisor, and now it is his spokesperson.
Okay.
As far as trying to take content creators' channels down.
And here we go with nothing but circle talk. That would have been a yes or no. Are you attempting to get people's channels down that are talking poorly about Seth? Instead of answering the question, he is about to circle talk you all like the professional salesman he is. Again, this is all my opinion on what you are about to see.
Brittany, I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, I don't know when somebody supposedly said this happened, but in the last 2 weeks, we've put 7 billboards up, done 3 interviews, and planned a vigil. And the last thing on my mind is content creators right now. So
okay.
I don't know where that came from. It's not true. I have a civil suit right now that's tied to a criminal suit pending against a content creator, but it's not even on this platform.
And all Tony had to answer was yes or no. Did he say that he wanted to have creators removed from the platform? Instead, he does a true typical spin of words. He goes on to state that they've been putting up billboards and planning a vigil, but all he truly had to do was say yes or no. I have said that I want these people removed off the platform because of the stress and havoc they've been causing my client. That would have been an acceptable answer. But instead of that, he's going to circle talk us.
Okay. Okay. Because I just want to tell you so you know, because
he obviously was aware of what was going on because he came in your live to deflect and distract you, and it worked. Tony is going to be serving up nothing but word salad, and these ladies eat it all up. It's going to be a long one. I guess this is where I should offer you a complimentary puke bag and some Dramamine for the upcoming ride we're about to go on. Every time I hear Tony Mathis speak, the song,
I've got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away, and I'll be okay,
comes to mind.
And I do want to be fair and say this, Tony. I have, from the moment I started the live, I said, I don't know. I want to ask questions because we have supported Seth. I still support Seth. I don't think, I think Seth is the one that has been trying to find his son. I've seen him out here pleading with the public. So, I'm not coming at this from a nefarious standpoint. It's just really concerning when you see things like that. But what they're alleging is there was someone in a group with you who has taken screenshots of some group you were in and shared them with another content creator.
I just cringe hearing her continually announce to everybody, I have supported Seth. We know you have. You've blindly supported a lot of bullshit.
And in these screenshots, it's basically they're accusing you of paying Bullhorn Betty to follow the Bower socks. They're saying, yeah.
So let me give you a little background. We were in a Facebook group.
And Tony admits that he was in a Facebook group.
See if I can get a light on in here. I'm sorry it's so dark. I'm sitting in here watching a football game.
I just appreciate you coming on to clear it up for us. You didn't have to do that, so I appreciate it.
Did he say he came up here? He has not seen these pictures yet?
Yeah.
Because I do think that's a little shady. Like I'm no fan of Tony. Sorry, Tony, but I do think that could be easily manipulated. Like, why would Tony go on Facebook and send pictures like that? Like, obviously, it'd go back to him. So I'll give him that.
Cher, can you just shut the fuck up, please?
So let me, and I appreciate that. So we were in a Facebook group of a bunch of TikTokers that supported Seth that I created a group with. We had 2 or 3 ladies that were in that group that left the group. Them and the other girls had a falling out. As you guys know, I seem to somehow get the blame for everything. So
Tony states that they were in a Facebook group with TikTokers who supported Seth. Hence the group that I call the TikTok Twits. And Tony, you're not getting the blame for everything, my dude. You're getting the blame for the shit you've been involved in. You factually didn't even enter the story until the end of April, beginning of May. There was so much going on that was shady behind the scenes before you even entered the picture. But that's factually speaking.
When they left, they took a lot of that frustration out on me, and there was 5 or 6 subgroups that these girls created that I was not in. And what created the falling out is a couple of these girls went and they chased down a content creator's mom in her hometown and connected with her mom. And
to my knowledge, Tony is speaking about what some of the TikTok Twits, aka Tony and Seth's team members from TikTok, did to a creator by the name of Barbecue Lady, who, as you know, I do not think highly of either because she was one of the first ones to have an email address taking tips for missing Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. I stand firmly against that, and all of them have caused nothing but chaos, in my opinion. But I also don't agree with going real life on people such as TikTok Tony's team had been doing all along. But previous to this fallout, they were all involved in a lot of chaos going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. But like a true salesman, he attempts to distance himself from said situation.
They did a bunch of really wild things that I did not know about because it was all going on in a group that I was not in. And they told me that was for my protection. But yet when it all blew up, somehow they blamed me. which is fine. I mean, as a spokesperson, you get blamed for a lot of things.
I interpret what Tony is saying to be that he knew that there was shady stuff going on with the TikTok twits and what they were doing to other creators, but they decided to keep him out of the other group so he couldn't get the backlash from what they were doing to other creators. For his protection, they kept him out of the group. Seems to me like damage control, keeping your hands clean type of situation. The less you know of our shady dealings, the better in the long run, because you're the spokesperson for the biological father of a missing child and we're causing nothing but chaos and fuckery. Sickens me to know that all of these games have been played in a missing child's case for no reason at all.
But I can tell you now that regarding Bullhorn Betty, Betty went down, when she went down on that trip, she had been hanging flyers all day. She had had lunch with Seth. She had helped him set up his YouTube account. And then on top of that, she'd been stalked by Terry. He got her pulled over, and then they had their little altercation.
And of course, anybody that's been paying attention knows that that's not how that went down. But for transparency purposes, here is a clip of what actually happened that Tony is once again misrepresenting. This is a clip from my video, Batty Bedbug Betty Pushes the Limits and Cries Victim, if you want to watch the full thing. Betty, you lie like a Persian rug. But let's just insert a short little clip here to remind people what she did.
They threatened me. Oh, Terry Bowersocks. Oh, you want to come around here? Oh, look at who it is. It's Terry Bowersocks. Look who just pulled up in the same QX80. Coming up, taking my tag plate. Let's turn around on his tag plate. Terry Bowersocks. Terry Bowersocks, right there. Came up and decided to take my plate on. So you want to know who's harassing who out here? The proof is in the pudding. The Bowersocks and the Proudfoots are the ones coming and harassing people. That right there, my friend, is Terry Bowersocks. Came by and took a picture. Why are you taking my license plate?
Why are you filming me?
Because you came by for me, Mr. Bowersocks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm in a public place.
Yes,
Why are you harassing me and following me?
Why are
you harassing me and following me when I'm conducting business?
How can I be following you when
You
you're
just were in the plaza. You've been following me,
I was
sir.
stopping
You
up
guys
there.
have been harassing me and threatening me for 2 days.
Prove it.
I am. Right here, sir. Right here, sir. Prove it? Yeah, I did just prove it, asshole. Better go through that fucking light. Fuck with me. I don't need violence. I'll capture you on film.
Please tell us more, Betty.
You want to pull my card? Do that shit again, Mr. Proudfoot, Mr. Bowersocks. Pull that shit again. You will hear me roar.
Meow, meow.
Tony seems to have conveniently forgotten how the situation actually went down in Hendersonville.
And I knew that she said on her live that she was getting ready to go have a steak. So I bought the woman a steak. And it was because of all she had done for Sebastian and Seth that day.
That's an interesting statement there, Tony. You think that stalking and harassing Sebastian's loved ones is doing something for him?
And it was due to what she had experienced with Mr. Bowersocks. And I sent her $50 to buy her steak, and that's the extent of it. And in the memo on my Venmo, it says, enjoy a steak or get yourself a steak or something to that effect. So that shows you how things get spun out of control.
Well, let's just look at the transaction once again, shall we?
You want to pull my card? Do that shit again, Mr. Proudfoot, Mr. Bowersocks. Pull that shit again. You will hear me roar. You will hear me roar. Pull that shit again. Double dog dare you. Double dog dare you.
She's a Betty badass.
Actually, I think right now, with all this shit, I think I earned myself a steak, y'all. I'm going to get myself a steak. And you know what I'm going to do? That officer was so nice to me. And he said, Texas Roadhouse is good. He goes, but I like Jonathan's. So I have a funny feeling I'm about to go to Jonathan's, get me like a $50 or $60 steak. I think I earned it. I don't like spending that kind of money on me, but you know what? I just got stalked the whole time I was here. I got threatened with my life. And you know what? If I'm going to get run over by a fucking truck tomorrow, damn it, I'm going to have a steak in my belly. I ain't going out like that. I'm just saying.
I mean, when people are intentionally misleading or misrepresenting what they've said and done in the past, it does have a tendency of spinning things out of control, I would think. Don't you, Tony? Because in the memo of the Venmo transaction, it clearly states, beaten up the B-Socks, aka the Bowersocks. And you pretty proudly dropped that in your group message with your cohorts, didn't you?
Would you be willing to share and be transparent with your Venmo and Cash App and stuff, at least towards, I don't know if you know her
absolutely.
name's not Betty, it's Andra.
Yeah,
But
it's Andrew
towards,
Griffin. But
so
yeah,
like, would you do that?
I certainly would.
Oh,
I
that'd
don't
be
know.
appreciated.
I don't know. Let's see here. Let me see. I don't want to.
But you don't got to do it tonight. I was just wondering, would you be open to doing
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I mean, I'm not. I'm not gonna pay somebody to stalk somebody because that's not what she was there doing. I mean,
Cher is demanding transparency from Tony about his Cash App, Venmo, so on and so forth. I don't think we need to see any of that. I think it will be coming to a courthouse near you very soon.
if you watch the live, she's a close friend of mine, and whether you like her or not, she's very close to Seth and I, and she was not there to stalk anybody. She got in an altercation with Terry after she noticed that Terry was following her and taking a picture of her license plate. You can clearly see it. She saw him in her rearview mirror. But I'll share a Venmo. I mean, I have receipts for my claims. The sad thing is that people don't have to prove guilt. It seems that we are always having to prove innocence.
I'm not shocked to hear the spokesperson of Seth Rogers completely rewrite the history of what Bullhorn Betty has actually been doing to the biological mother and stepfather of the missing child. She is a huge piece of their team and like a sister to both of them. If this was ever about Sebastian, they would not be okay with what is happening to Sebastian's loved ones. Of course, that is my opinion, though. It seems to me that this is a mutually beneficial arrangement between Seth and BHB and Tony also.
Regarding Caleb Harris, I had an administrator of our Facebook group that sent me a picture and a video that I did not, I did not care to see. I was not involved in the case anymore. And I can assure you that I sent that to nobody. And I had many people ask me for it. And I told them that Randy was a coworker and a friend of mine, and there was no way in hell I was going to be sharing that information. And quite frankly, when it was sent to me, they didn't even know if it was him at that point.
So Tony admits that he was sent the horrific photos of Caleb Harris in the well, but he claims that he did not send those on any further.
And Brittany, the only thing I will say, and I have no, you can have my cell phone number. I gave it to Josh the lab the other day, and
I thought Josh was one of Trevor Lee's friends. Maybe I'm confused. You'll understand why I asked that coming up.
we had a great conversation. If you ever want to ask me a question, I would much rather make myself available than to be tagged and have a video with that kind of a title on it, because I'm not hard to get a hold of. I'm glad to talk to you at any time.
Right.
It is a little disenchanting, to hear you just make up your mind that I'm an asshole.
This part gave me a great chuckle. Enter Britney J's cleanup crew.
We've never even had a conversation.
I don't think
No,
that's
no,
fair.
no, no. She's just questioning it.
No, I don't think that's
She's
fair.
just questioning it.
No.
She's honestly gone,
No.
honestly, privately for me being too hard on you and Seth privately. Like, this is not fun for her to do tonight, Tony. I'll tell you that.
When you were talking about Britney here, you were talking about someone who has put her butt on the line. She has had faith in Seth. She has been there 100%, and she's not done anything questionable. So that doesn't work.
I get that. But Brittany, am I incorrect here? Was it you that said I think Tony's an asshole, or was it somebody else on the team?
I may have said that.
I said that. I said you're a liar and you're an asshole. I said that for sure.
He asked Britney a question.
Okay. Well, my apologies, and I thought it was you that said it, Brittany.
No, I did say that I want to be able to ask questions because I don't
That's
blindly follow anybody,
Let's rewind the beautiful footage.
Tony is a manipulative asshole.
Sounds to me like that was Britney saying it.
Yeah,
Because,
that's fair. That's fair. Completely fair.
Honestly, Tony, there have been some horrible things that have come out, and if it is things that you are innocent of, Seth is innocent of, it's horrible. And I will say I'm sorry if you have been falsely accused of these things.
They have attacked my wife, who's got nothing to do with any of this. They've sent emails to my work. They've sent emails to my family, content creators, and it's one that's doing it. We finally snatched his IP address. When he sent an email, believe it or not, the same person was sending emails to the pet rescue that we're donating money to, and he got a little bit careless, and one of the IP addresses got captured.
I do not think it's okay whatsoever that anybody is going real life on Tony's family. However, Tony is not Mr. Innocent like he's trying to portray. He knew exactly who JLR was, and he continued to allow his team to provoke and go after JLR. So, of course, in my opinion, JLR retaliated in true JLR fashion. That is who I think they are implying. At first, I thought they were implying Dolly, but listening to it further, I believe that they are implying that it's JLR behind this. But I also find it quite ironic that Tony has condoned all the harassment of the mother of the missing child and the stepfather and the missing child's grandparents, but then cries victim when his own family is contacted.
But we've been through it. The pictures you're talking about on TikTok, that did not happen either. What nobody talks about is I went back and replayed the live. I showed a recording of me going into my TikTok lives, pulling the video up from the night before. They said it happened at the 13-minute mark.
Tony is now discussing when he had a green screen glitch. I'll be inserting a couple clips about that situation upcoming.
I was with my best friend, who's a 60-year-old stage 4 cancer patient, fishing in Minnesota when I did that live that they put that overlay on.
Sir, there was no overlay put on that video. I'm going to insert a clip here from LadyK Talks, who was a part of this whole green screen debacle.
At mark 45:58, what happens? I don't know. Let's see. I have it starting at 43:52, just so we don't miss anything, everybody, okay? Okay. And thank you, Turtle Gang, for coming over, showing much love, much respect. Let's get it going.
Stop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to.
She's the one that called you a P. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who is they talking about? Who called him a pedo? And oh no, I did not realize he said that. Oh, because I recorded it. Oh, here we go.
So I mean, it's to the point where I've had enough of people attacking Seth. I've had enough of people questioning his decisions. I hope that these idiots in the chat, if they got something slick to say, just get rid of them.
He's talking about me. I put JLR followed Candace to her thing, and he did. That's the only thing that I had a problem with JLR is the way that he followed Candace to her hotel room and harassed her. That's the only problem I've had with JLR. Other than that, I don't have a problem with JLR. I do think he does cover things pretty good. I just did not agree with what he did to Candace.
I can't read the comments, so I did see a little thing of 2 a.m. girls agree with everything Tony has to say. Actually, I don't agree. I don't agree with everything Tony says, but Tony and I address it like adults privately. I don't go and bash him publicly.
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I've had enough of people causing grief for Seth. I can stay professional and I can stay above board for a while, and then after a while, then.
Okay, so that is not my stream. That is not me. That is not my channel. That's someone else. So that's number 2, Tony. So did we both have the same inlay? Did we both do the same thing? You freaking moron. Okay, there you go. Case closed. Wienergate ended. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. Bravo. So there it is. There was impossible, Tony, that somebody overlaid anything, because then how did she do it? She's typing in this as it's being recorded, as you see. Okay, there it is. Bingo. Game over.
Huge shout out to LadyK Talks for catching all of that in real time. Multiple people were restreaming this live when the glitch happened. Now you can decide what you think the glitch is.
It's the same person that sent the emails to my work and to this poor lady at this pet rescue, who also sent emails to Joe Petito.
This is where it gets a little muddy, because he is claiming that the same person that did this overlay, which is non-existent, also sent emails to Tony's work, to the pet rescue, and so on. He is not naming who they are blaming for supposed emails to the pet rescue, Joe Petito, or this overlay, but he is mixing multiple situations into one. In my opinion, that is to muddy the water and cause continued confusion.
So they said it happened at the 13-minute mark. I went back and played pretty much the entire live so that people could see the real live unedited. And of course, there was nothing there. I was in my pajamas sitting in the hotel lobby when I did the live, and my phone was face down on a table. But, you just get tired of defending yourself against this craziness because it never ends.
And again, there was no overlay put on this video. People were restreaming Tony on YouTube when this glitch happened. I think if Tony would have came out and said, oops, my green screen glitched, I had no idea, I think people would have moved along right away from it. But instead, Tony doubled down, tripled down, and denied it ever happening when it was being streamed in real time on multiple different platforms. And no one on panel is even remotely attempting to push back or question him on these things.
Well, apparently I did call you an asshole, so for that I apologize.
Well, I thought I saw your box light up, but
That's right. You know what though? I have to tell you this, and I'm probably gonna get some shit for it. But
Who cares?
people don't like me anyway.
Oh, stop with the poor baby act, Britney. Seriously.
When stuff like that happens, sorry, Justin. When stuff like this happens, do you turn that over to the law at all?
So, in a court of law, I was a federal process server for a lot of years, and I worked with, attorneys for day in and day out for quite a while. And, you have to have legal standing when you turn things over. And even defamation cases, you can go give an attorney a $2,500 retainer. And if you win, if you can't show measurable damages, you're going to win the case and you're going to get $1.
Should have just been yes or no, Tony. That's it.
And so it gets to a point where you realize that most of the people attacking aren't doing anything to help my client or Sebastian. And so you become oblivious to it. But
or could it be that you're not reporting these things because there's actually shady shit going on in the background, and you also know that there was no overlay added?
The truth is that Seth and I, this is what a lot of people don't know. I'm more like a brother to Seth than I am a spokesperson. And he's got another lady that's more like a sister to him than she is an event planner. And it's just the three of us for the most part. And the relationship we have is private, but it's also very, very deep. I represented Seth for about a month when I found out that he and I grew up 15 minutes apart, literally spent Sunday eating dinners at the same.
In my opinion, this is probably why Tony is a successful salesman, because he circle talks you until you forget what the question you even had in the beginning was. He gives a bunch of irrelevant additional details that nobody asked about. But instead of answering questions straightforward, he does this, so it causes confusion.
Place, and I'd represented him for a month before I even knew that, because I thought he'd been in Tennessee and California and didn't know that he grew up in a little town in Kansas. And then I dug a little deeper and got to get close to his sister and found out that her childhood best friend was one of my wife's bridesmaids. So, we're connected in a lot of ways, and we've got a very, very brotherly relationship. And, that's why he gets defensive like that, because he knows what happens behind the scenes. He knows when he's having a rough day, who's there for him.
Or could it possibly be that he doesn't want his spokesperson's shady dealings behind the scenes getting leaked out there and ruining his grieving father reputation? I think both things could be true. Again, I think Seth could absolutely be going through struggles with Sebastian being missing, but I also think he might be really worried about people knowing what his spokesperson, his right-hand man, has been doing behind the scenes. And could he have possibly thought that he was losing control over a channel that pushes these narratives blindly?
And Britney, I not taken I didn't take a dollar from Randy Harris either, but when I go to Tennessee, I'll be in Tennessee for 5 days, leaving on Thursday. And, those hotels, that travel, those meals, those come out of my wife and I's pocket. They don't come out of a GoFundMe.
But no one asked you about that, Tony.
Can I ask you? I want to ask this question. I do want to clarify this. I looked this up myself. Michaela's Mutts is not the same Michaela.
No,
that's not her. This lady was she's a veteran.
It's a very unfortunate name, but it's not the same Michaela. And she is a phenomenal human. So is her husband. They have their business licensed. Everything's filed properly. But just to show you how vile some of these content creators are, her husband is the one that trapped this IP address. The gentleman that sent it did not realize her husband was an IT guy.
So now we've got dog rescues that are married to IT guys trapping IP addresses of people supposedly harassing Tony. Okay, gotcha. I know there's been some recent discussion around this Michaela's Mutts rescue. It is a licensed and registered business. That is correct. What does come into question is their charitable status. It looks to me like that has expired. Maybe they have applied and it just is not updated on the system. But as of right now, that is expired.
So he had 4 or 5 emails that were sent. I think all but one of them were from a VPN, but one of them was captured about 6 minutes from his house.
And we are just supposed to take Tony's word on all this?
So, I mean, it's not that, but to your question, sorry, I got off on a tangent, but it's not the same Michaela. It's not any relation at all.
He is a master of the art of circle talk.
Well, one of the things I'm seeing people frustrated with, and they keep asking in chat, is why is the money from the vigil going to Michaela's Mutts, and why is there not a reward fund set?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. All that money, where did it go? Why not? Because for me, one of my kids is missing, and I raised something like $23,000. That's just what we saw publicly. First thing I'm doing is setting up through like an attorney or law office sort of things.
Well, let's just listen to Seth's words about where the GoFundMe was spent. That should solve that.
Cool. I couldn't. After Chris lost his cool, I couldn't stay there after Wednesday.
Lost his cool. How? I never heard this.
The GoFundMe my sister set up to help me pay my bills while I look for my son.
What was that all over? Why did he want you to stop? Why did he threaten you?
Hold on. It was a GoFundMe that my sister set up for me to pay my bills while I look for my son. It wasn't set up as a reward. It wasn't set up as anything else. People want to know what happened to it. It was donated. I used it to pay my bills. I used it to put gas in my truck so I could drive an hour and a half down there, an hour and a half back. People.
You don't have to convince me because I know how expensive.
No, it's just a little annoying. If the GoFundMe had been put up for a reward, yes, it would have been used as a reward. And I still have some of it. Right. And I still won't touch a portion of it because I'm wanting to put it into the reward. But it has to be set up properly, and law enforcement has to literally approve of it.
Right. Gotcha.
Just because people want something done doesn't mean it happens. I'd like my son to be found, and I'm looking for him.
Some kind of reward fund, because Tony, these days people will talk for some money. Like,
people will also cause a lot of chaos for money too. But anyways, speaking of reward funds, originally there was said to be a $3,500 reward fund, which was a bunch of promise to pays, letters of intent. Come to find out, the attorney behind all of that had some shady dealings, so that was taken off the table. And not only did Seth have a GoFundMe, he also had a Venmo and a Cash App.
Here's what I'll say about the reward. First off, anytime that any money goes to Seth for anything, which it hasn't since I've been representing him, he gets viciously attacked. And he didn't.
But wait, Tony, that's not true either, because Betty has been raising money for Seth and sending it to him since you've been representing Seth. And here is a clip just for an example of said raising money.
Okay. And so I ended up putting this out because we got expenses. And this is Seth's Cash App. And people wanted to tear my ass up over trying to help a family. I help families. I've been doing this for a long time.
And that's just one short example of people raising money for Seth since Tony has been representing Seth.
Want that to happen, so he wanted to donate that to a cause that would make Sebastian proud, which was a pet rescue. Sebastian's favorite animal is a cat. We actually tried to get a kitty rescue, but we couldn't get a return call from him. So
is that where all the GoFundMe money went?
No. The GoFundMe money, you're fairly accurate on the amount there. To my knowledge, again, I don't have access to that.
Just over like $23,000. I was just wondering, did that go to Seth? Did that help? Maybe it helped with living expenses. I understand that because he wasn't working. I just want to know, where did that go? Do you know?
So I will tell you, without sharing Seth's private information, which I won't do. I'll just simply say this. The first 60 days, as you guys know, he was searching every day.
And truly, none of us know where the GoFundMe money or the Cash App or Venmo money has gone. And we might not ever. But what I can say is, here is a clip of Seth himself speaking on law enforcement, suggesting they don't search. So when Tony tells you that he was out there every day for the first 60 days, Seth himself has spoke about searching for Sebastian. According to Seth's own statements, I have it that he probably has not actively searched for Sebastian since the middle of March. And that was solely gathered from Seth's own words when he would go on panels with people.
They told us not to search. All right. They told us not to be getting out and walking through the forest and shit like that looking for Sebastian. That they didn't want one of us to go missing while we're looking for our son. Understand that. That's why I did my searching out of the vehicle. Driving around, hollering for my son, going up and down every road, looking as far as I can see, screaming for his name, almost went and bought a bullhorn.
So Seth stated very publicly that law enforcement did not want them searching. He claims that he drove around in his truck, hollering out the windows of his truck for Sebastian. How long did that carry on? I'm not exactly sure. Again, by his own words, I would say that stopped about the middle of March.
And he was off work. And he was off work far beyond that when it got to the point that he couldn't hardly walk because of his neck. So he did not get any relief from his job until just recently.
I am unsure of what Tony is referencing as far as relief from his job. I'm assuming some sort of short-term disability fund or something of that nature, but we don't really know. What I will say is the GoFundMe caused a lot of chaos in the very beginning. It was started 3 days after Sebastian went missing. Seth's sister did in fact start the GoFundMe, and that was right after a conversation with law enforcement and all of the parents, and they had agreed to not start any type of funds at that point. Once they did find out that Seth's sister and Seth had set up this GoFundMe, it did cause contention and an explosion ensued. In my opinion, rightfully so, because they had gone against what law enforcement had suggested they do, and that they had all agreed upon. Chris requested that the GoFundMe was taken down by Seth's sister, which she declined taking it down and said Seth would need it for living expenses. I always go back to, how did they know he was going to need living expenses 3 days in? I'm assuming that most of them were hopeful that he would be found in the first couple days.
He just had surgery too, right?
That's correct. That's
Right.
correct. So he had to live, and that GoFundMe money is not gone. But without knowing, when he was going to get some relief from his job or when he was going to go back to work.
Seth has stated that he has spent the money on flyers, gas, and so on, searching for Sebastian. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea.
And the other thing too, the law enforcement has been pretty adamant, and there's a lot of things that they advise that we may or may not agree with, but they've been pretty adamant about there not being a reward offered. It is something that is still on the table, and it may still happen. But
to my understanding, law enforcement met with the family really early on and gave them some advice as far as the reward fund and also fundraising, such as Seth's GoFundMe.
I can tell you this: if you know anything about Seth Rogers has not spent a penny of that money that he didn't have to spend to live. The man is not a fancy guy. The man does not have. I have not seen the man have one new item anywhere around him since I've been representing him.
Did he happen to get a new laptop, Tony? Just wondering.
They attacked him over his motorcycle, and he had his motorcycle far before Sebastian went missing. So
we didn't see him out shopping for a new one, so.
No.
Yeah.
Seth did, in fact, own his motorcycle previous to Sebastian going missing. But Chris and Katie were also not out motorcycle shopping either. But of course, that photo has made its rounds and people have ran with the narrative.
Tony, I'm Justin. I have a few channels, Justin for All Clips and Pearls. I've never spoken to you publicly or privately, but nice to meet you. I have a couple questions. First, why do you think, in your opinion, the perception that people, have of you, like what do you think it is that gets you the amount of criticism? And I'll be the first to say I have criticized you, and I'll tell you why here in a moment. But I try to take things. I always try to be sort of fair. I try to be as fair as possible. Sure. On each individual basis.
Spanky, can you just land the damn plane?
Right, on each individual thing. Like, I'll be the first to say whenever that, they said your junk was being shown or whatever. I don't think I've never thought it was anything. I think in my opinion, it was just something that. But
I agree with that. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, even I agree with that.
But there is things that I will say here shortly. But I just want to ask you that question there. Like, what do you think it is that everyone comes hard on you for?
It would be simply an opinion, Justin.
Yeah, I'm just asking your opinion. I mean, what do you hear the most?
So here's where we struggle. You hear all these things and these reasons people have made up their mind, and you won't see a situation where I've disrespected somebody. I have a couple times I've gone in on a couple of creators that were viciously attacking Seth, and I don't apologize for that because that's my job.
So let me get this straight. It's his job to go in on creators who have disrespected Seth. Gotcha.
But in a normal setting with people like you and Britney and people that, haven't been attacking my client.
Calling Seth his client. Interesting.
You'll never see me be disrespectful. You won't see me raise my voice. I think a lot of it has to do with, at least initially, getting Seth off of YouTube and creating more of a professional situation for him where he doesn't get on a channel and look down and see the chat and lose his mind and then give content creators more content to play the next 4 or 5 days attacking him.
Sure.
And I think me taking him off those channels, it pissed some people off.
I do think that some creators were upset when Tony came into the picture and stopped Seth going on some of the panels. I do agree with that. But Tony's already asked a lot of these questions during the BHB interview. Here's a clip to remind people.
Let me ask you something real quick, and it's kind of talking about your team. Now, this is kind of like a little sore subject because, there's been a lot of criticism about Tony being on your team.
Well, I know can get over it.
Yeah, but, a lot of people are just, concerned that he's taking advantage of you somehow. Is there a way for Tony to take advantage? Does he have access to money, fundraiser, your credit card? I mean, how is he taking advantage of you?
I don't know. Tony, how are you taking advantage of me?
I think it's those secret late night calls, Seth.
Oh, you mean right after I go to sleep when you call me to tell me that somebody's running their mouth? Or the late night calls where I call you because I want to see how everything's going so I know what to prepare myself for the next day. There's nobody taking advantage of anything. He's a volunteer. If he wanted to, he could tell me, hey, I'm done with this shit. I can't do it no more. And I'd tell Tony, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. I know where you live.
Do you have a TikTok account?
No, I don't.
You don't have a TikTok account? Okay.
I don't have a Facebook. I have a YouTube account, which people have looked. I've had this since 2006.
Yeah.
But 2006 is when I made my Gmail account.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 years before my kid was born.
Yeah.
And before this, I used YouTube to listen to music.
Right. Yeah. That's the way I was too before I became Bullhorn Betty.
Seth, let me ask you a question. When you're with me, forget you paying for anything for me or me taking any money. When you're with me, do you even pay for anything for yourself?
No.
Well, thank you, Tony. God bless you.
Tony won't let me. Tony won't let me.
Mm-hmm.
I've with my team, we've gone out to dinner at times, and I get the third degree when I start reaching for my wallet to pay for shit. And it's like, I was raised to be a gentleman.
Right.
I had a particular female got mad that I bought her dinner, but everybody was splitting up the bill, and I was like, well, I'll pay for these two people here, this one and this one.
Right.
And I got the third degree because I was told not to. And then I got yelled at because I left the lady a tip.
I understand a lot of people are worried about Tony financially exploiting Seth. However, that has never been a concern of mine. I do not think Tony is in this for any type of financial gain. I think there is other motives, and that is just my opinion. But as you can tell from Seth's own words, he runs the show.
But even the people that are the most vile towards Seth and me, I can tell you that I've never met those people. I reached out. I'll just say this: JLR, and I hate talking about other creators on your channel, but some of the harshest critics, JLR, JS for Justice, and some of his crew. I initially reached out to those people. I reached out to JLR through Justin on TikTok.
This was kind of confusing to me because JLR was a part of Seth's team before Tony came on to the scene. Seth had reached out to JLR personally and asked him to get involved in this case. There has been a lot of shuffling team members.
We reached out to him through Magnolia. I knew that at one point he supported Seth, and it seemed that he had quit supporting him. Yeah. I asked him if he'd like to have a conversation because I thought that we could use his platform for Sebastian.
In my opinion, JLR did what he does in every case, gets in there, muddies the water, and then flips and flops like a fish out of water. And he's another one that I do not think is in it for financial gain. I think the thrill of creating chaos is what he gets out of it. But way before Betty was in Hendersonville causing chaos, JLR was there. And if you want to watch that, watch my last video I did on JLR. You'll see a very good look of how similar him and Betty are. In fact, they use the same playbook, written by JLR. in my opinion.
He had no desire to talk. He'd never met me, never talked to me. They put a criminal record of mine out there that was not mine, which was fine. I mean, I carry a lot of federal documents that I wouldn't have been able to have with a record like that. But again, I don't owe that to anybody.
Let's not play Mr. Innocent, Tony, because you had your team doxing out all of JLR's background. And here is a clip to remind people.
Is that the mustache man he also tried to sue? Kayla?
I'm sorry, what?
Was that the mustache man he tried to sue?
Yeah. All survivors of the Holocaust, the Lincoln Memorial, Eiffel Tower, the USS Cole, the book, whatever that says, the Garden of Eden, the Roman Empire.
Notice the same team members on screen. Tony might not be present, but his team members are as they're going through JLR's problematic past.
Can you give us an abbreviation for what platform that is, ESL?
She said what? YT.
Yeah, but she's meaning like who?
Channel.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I wasn't very clear on that.
I'll send it to KJ. Okay. Oh, okay. No wonder. Well, never mind. Yeah.
Oh, that says it all right there.
Yeah.
If you're on there watching that, ask him how his PEDO brother's doing.
And need I remind anybody that this is the spokesperson for the parent of a missing child. Doxing other creators that they don't get along with, mentioning other family members of creators that no longer supported them. Seems to me like Tony couldn't handle the heat and had his TikTok twits handle things in the shadiest ways possible. And the sad reality is all of this was done under Sebastian's name.
And I even reached out to Jay's for Justice through email and said, hey, if you'd like to have a conversation, I can answer some of your questions and we might be able to get on the same page. And, we could come on and do an interview. And she didn't want to talk. She simply wanted to bring me and Seth on the panel. And, you put Seth in a situation on a call-in show where if she's got all these things in her mind that she doesn't have answers to, then they're calling in like they used to on another show. And again, he loses his mind and he gives everybody content. And that's not what was good for him.
It is my opinion that they wanted to try and control Jay because of the large size platform she has. But because they couldn't gain control over Jay and get her to follow a script, then it wasn't worth their time. Again, they were very aware of what was going on and making very calculated decisions. Once again, my opinion.
So I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Well, that was going to kind of push you on this. So my main opinion about you in the negative form has been because, and I'm going to tell you why, because of Trevor Lee. I've known Trevor for a long time. I've worked with Trevor from in person to afar.
It takes Spanky 10 minutes to ask a simple question.
And I know that you and Trevor, whenever you first, started becoming, I don't want to say managing Seth. I don't know what the term you guys use, but, working with Seth. Trevor did call you, and from what I understand, he was disagreeing with something. I can't remember what it was about, to be honest with you.
You're already inaccurate there. I'll tell you what happened with Trevor Lee. So his team before me had made the determination that there was people on his team that needed to go. Now, these are people that I did not know, never broke bread with them, never talked to them. I say I had a phone conversation with one of the PIs. This all stemmed from his team and Seth deciding that it was time for the PIs to go. So when that happened,
that's what it was. Yes, yes, it was a disagreement on the two PIs, and I think he was expressing his opinion on the PIs. And
he wasn't expressing his opinion, Justin. He was blaming me for Seth firing his PIs. So
well, I'm not going to say because I don't, he's not here. So but I'm just telling you what
I have the text.
Okay, that's fine.
I have the text, and I will tell you. And I don't want you headed down the wrong road, which is why I'm kind of cutting in.
Tony's not the only one with the text messages.
He called me.
Wait, whoa. Don't say something like that and try and drive her right past that. What does that mean?
I think he's meaning he doesn't
No,
want
I want him to
be
answer.
accused.
What does that mean, Tony?
Which part?
What just come out of your mouth? You came up here. You don't want to see Justin going down the wrong thing, so you're up here tonight. What does this mean? The words that just come out of your mouth before I interrupted. What's that mean?
So what that means is he's starting to tell the story, and there's already inaccuracies.
Yeah, but you kind of give him a warning, right? Or no?
So
Okay.
I mean, that's how I took it, but just
Okay.
let
I
him
was just
carry on.
wondering. I was just wondering.
That's how I took it, but just let him carry on. Explain this.
Sorry.
So what happened is,
In my opinion, this is damage control by the cleanup crew, aka spokesperson.
Trevor called me and he started getting aggressive with me about being the reason that the PIs were gone. I very quickly told him if he had questions about that, he needed to reach out to Seth because he had an open line of communication with Seth. Then he started texting me, and I redirected that text to a group text with Seth on it, which I have screenshots of. Seth told him very clearly in those texts that I had nothing to do with the PIs being gone. I mean, I had no PIs I was trying to bring or anything like that. I mean, my PIs before were in Corpus Christi.
They wanted Nina Glass to come in at that time.
But his team and Seth decided that it was not the right fit for him for whatever reason. Trevor would not let it go. He continued to press. He continued to come at me and blame me. And no matter what I said, Justin, he was not going to let it go. And when they got rid of some of the search people, again, not people I knew, not people I had ever met or talked to, I was the fall guy for all of that. And I had nothing to do. I've had something to do with people that, have come in to help since then, but they're not people that were related to what Trevor was doing or what the PIs were doing at all. People that are helping with signs and whatnot.
I mean, it was okay. So what? He wouldn't let it go. I mean, can't you disagree on issues and it still doesn't have to be war? You know what I mean? Like, I've just never. I mean, Trevor's going to express his opinion just like we all are, but Trevor is literally the first person I knew that took Sebastian's case when nobody, and I mean nobody, was speaking about it. Nobody was interested in it. Yeah. Nobody cared. 40 people in his chat.
That's not true. There was other people talking about it, but Trevor Lee did shine a brighter light on the case.
And he's a man now, but he was a kid back around the time Summer Wells went missing. And the kid at the time, gave like $1,000 of his own money. Yeah. He has really high character. And let me tell you something.
Never,
the night
Justin,
I was on, one second.
Just a second. He has
sure.
Trev has never attracted any kind of controversy.
No. I mean, I think probably the biggest was Nina.
That's not true. And Trevor Lee will even admit that that's not true. He has caused controversy, such as getting aligned with Nina. And everybody knows where I stand on that. And Trevor and I still can coexist with respect and kindness to each other. I know, shocker, right? It's called adulting. It's laughable to me when people will blindly defend somebody. It's okay. People make mistakes. Trevor admitted he made a mistake. He got in over his head, in my opinion, and he was used 100%. Both things can be true. People can make mistakes and still be incredible human beings. That can happen. Trevor also apologized to Chris Proudfoot for being involved in the custody stuff, and that I have huge respect for. And I'm positive Trevor Lee will not ever do that again.
And Trevor's like, he's like a family member almost to me. The night all of that went down with Seth. Now, listen, I have always taken up for Seth. I know the man is innocent. He didn't do anything to his son. It's clear. I mean, there's not a better alibi you can get than being literally in a jail. Right? I mean, that's what I tell people. There's not a better alibi. But I was furious with Seth the night he came up on Smiley's, and I told Seth that. But just because I disagree with Seth or I disagree with you on one thing, to me it's I can disagree with you on something and still not think you're a horrible person and just the vilest person at the end of the earth.
Right.
So,
and we still have grace for Seth because he's,
of course.
So
he's a grieving dad.
Yeah, I agree, Justin. Let me address that for you. That blow up you saw that night.
And this is why Spanky, aka Justin, is referred to as the melatonin of YouTube, because it takes him a whole 15 minutes to ask one goddamn question. Justin, get on it.
It came after 15 to 20 different screenshots that were sent to him, and some of them to me, about things that Trevor was saying on different platforms. And quite frankly, most of them were directed at me. And I think Seth had just had enough, and he decided that he wanted to let everybody know that it was his decision. It had nothing to do with me. And to this day, Trevor still blames me for all of that. Now, you don't see me talking about Trevor. You'll never see me talking about him. Anything I've had to say to him, even to the point that, he was texting me while I was on my fishing trip and saying nasty stuff to me. And, what have you. Anything I've ever had to say to him, I said it directly to him.
Trevor Lee had become very vocal about things that were going on behind the scenes that he was aware of. I'm sure it upset Seth's team at the time. The upcoming clip is from Deets On The Streets. It is when she reads the messages between Trevor and Tony.
Okay, so I start out right. I'm going to be Trevor and Joneson's going to be Tony. So Trevor says, Tony Mathis, I write this to you in your official capacity as Seth Rogers' spokesperson. Let this please serve as my written notice that my efforts to find Sebastian will not cease. Many have said you guys plan to serve me with a cease and desist and possibly a suit to follow. I will not be scared into being silent, nor will I be silenced by a clear abuse of the civil system. So again, let this serve as official notice that I will continue my efforts towards the safe return or recovery of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. We can't hear you, Johnson, if you're talking.
So it does silence me over there. So
okay.
I don't know how. Unless you put it on the screen, I wouldn't be able to read it.
I'll read. Okay, so then Tony replies, I'm not under contract. Send your bullshit to him and quit being a trouble-causing, whining little bitch. You continue to be scared to take your drama to him. You are pathetic. That was Tony. Trevor replies, children name call when they don't have a point to make, but I digress. I didn't do anything to you, and this misdirected anger is very weird. I can't help that people don't think you're a good PR guy. I was simply sharing with you that I have no plans to cease or desist. You have been the person speaking about these letters, so I contacted you. Sebastian deserves a lot better than this, a lot better than your games. Oh, let's see. Where'd it go? Okay. Tony replies, you're a very disgruntled little crybaby. Boo-hoo. I didn't have enough value to keep from getting fired by a grieving father. I think he meant you, but he said I. You see, he knew you, unlike me, and I thought you brought no value. You proved his point by stirring up high school girl drama on social media after you were booted. You are a child yourself trying to use another child for platform game. Sad little guy you are. Trevor replies, Seth let you go? News to me. I guess the little things count though, right? Because he was, yeah. Trevor goes on, I literally gave up my platform to work more behind the scenes on cases and with families, but believe what you shall. One of us is a college student and the other is a 50-plus-year-old man, though their behaviors would indicate the opposite.
Period.
It's sad what you've done to this case. I'm sorry you felt such a desire to be involved that you drowned out the voice of a missing 15-year-old boy when he needed it the most. Shame on you, Mr. Mathis. And Tony replied, I think you have a future as a professional crybaby. You were good at it. And Trevor sends a meme that says maybe you just need a Snickers.
Listen, that was Mr. Meek himself being all mild and calm. But no, it was completely the opposite of what he's saying here on Britney's panel.
Absolutely. Trevor was being the professional one and Tony was being very aggressive and
calling him a crybaby, whiny little bitch. The fuck out of here.
And once again, I feel like Tony is intentionally misrepresenting what actually happened or transpired between him and some behind the scenes.
I haven't said it to other people, but he's young. You're right, and he chose to take to social media and call me a criminal and call me a crook.
You're talking about him.
Say what?
You're talking about him right now. You said you never talk about him, but you are right now.
I'm simply telling you what he chose to do.
I know, but you just told us that you weren't going to talk. You were going to take it directly to him if you had a problem with him.
Well,
all you got to say is that he was saying things that were not nice to you, and then move on.
Okay, we can do that then.
Jules, maybe you should stay in your lane because he was specifically asked a question and he was answering said question.
It seemed like whenever you came in, this is my opinion. I'm giving it to you honestly, and I hope you know I'm really trying to be respectful. But it felt like I think probably people felt like they were giving their all. I know Trevor was. And I don't want to speak for him. That's for sure. I'm just speaking on how I felt on something. But it felt like, you came in and then everyone was thrown to the side.
I'm sure that was probably the first time that a lot of those little groupies started to see that there was issues. But factually speaking, the team behind the scenes had been crumbling one by one way before Tony even came into the picture. And we have gone over the team members on the whiteboard numerous times.
Very bad timing, Justin. I mean, I can certainly see what the perception was there. But when I came in, I had my hands full with cleaning up some of Seth's interviews and some things that were a challenge.
It's interesting to me that Tony admits that he was brought in to clean up some things, but I'm really curious what exactly he cleaned up because nothing changed, in my opinion.
But the decision to get rid of those people had already been made before I came on, and he was in the process of doing that. It just took him a while to make it official. But, Seth can tell you himself, and he's told many, many people that that was 100% him. And he has always been the guy that controlled his team, period.
And here is another clip of Seth stating that he is the boss and he runs the show.
Who is on my team to find my son is my choice. I'm the one building the team. I'm the one that's responsible for him. As the gentleman here has already said, I'm the boss.
There were a lot of messy things going on from the beginning of the story, way before TikTok Tony ever got involved.
A lot of the Trevor situation had to do with the PIs. It really wasn't even Trevor himself. And, I don't know that Trevor directly ever did anything, to Seth until after the PIs were let go. I mean, again, I don't know those people. I had one conversation with...
I don't either, really.
With one PI, and then I had a few conversations with the other one after she was gone. And, I never had any bad conversations with them.
Did you ever figure out which one of you leaked the phone call?
One thought. So it's the story that you were telling earlier, that at the beginning, Seth was kind of going around on the different YouTube channels, and then you came onto the scene and you guys decided to work together and whatnot. You said tonight that part of that, your role was to make this, I think you used the word professional, to make it a professional thing, that he wouldn't go up on a channel, get upset about what's being said in the side chat, and then, act out and make more content for later, right? That's not really how I remember it at all. The way that I remember it, and tomorrow I'll go back and double check my memory, but the way I remember it is that Seth came on the scene and he was devastated that his son was missing, and he was activated, searching anywhere and everywhere that he could. He had friends of his, I think, from where he works that were also with him, and he garnered an immense amount of support on social media. Everyone was standing beside this man. Everyone. He was answering questions. He was thoughtful. He was kind. People's heartstrings were, everybody felt protective. They were worried about Sebastian, but they also felt protective and worried about Seth. And it seemed like that when you showed up, when you began to be a part of the conversation, it seemed like that changed. It seemed like suddenly Seth was a lot more combative.
How are you, buddy? I'm good. How are you? Good. I'm listening.
The team is falling apart, and then people online began being attacked, and a lot of his support fell off. And that's kind of how I seem to remember it like different than the way you described it.
Actually, one of the big moments where Seth lost a lot of support was when he told everybody to kindly F off, that him and the Proudfoot family would be working together. There was a lot of chaos way before Tony came in at the end of April, beginning of May. And that was all Seth and his team at that time.
I agree with you. That's what I'm curious when he says he had to come in and clean up things that Seth has said. I'm curious, where does that come from? Because is it Jen? Sorry, it's a tiny screen. Jules, sorry. Jules just said,
a lot. That term was used a lot. Clean up stuff.
Clean up stuff, and that sounds in true crime. You can take how that sounds.
But what exactly did he clean up is what I would like to know.
It's working. Don't just ignore the mods. Do your job. Tony, can you give us an example of what you had to clean up or no?
So we had some creators that were taking bits and pieces of what he said and not playing things in context. When I say clean up, I'm not talking about, Seth was a disaster and I had to come in and fix him. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I know that there was creators clipping Seth out of context, but Seth himself had a lot to say that was problematic in the beginning.
Seth has always been a broken father.
Because I'm like, Chris Proudfoot needs the person cleaning up after him.
Yeah, I had a night on the phone with him, and that was plenty for me.
Oh wow. Lord. And then I just have one more.
What a professional spokesperson, that he takes the opportunity to once again smear the missing child's stepfather.
Do you know, was Seth, we'll just go with Seth because that's your client, as you say. Was he offered anything from the law for someone to help him, like in the presence of media, something like that? Or that's what you guys are trying to do now? Or how come was he not offered someone? Because I know that's an option. That's my question.
Well, so I can't speak to that. I don't know. I wasn't here early on. I can tell you definitively that when I was introduced to Seth, I did not at that time have any desire to do anything other than potentially help him with a search team. Seth spent probably 2 weeks talking to me daily about being his spokesperson, and quite honestly, I didn't know that I had the time in my day to help him. I was out fishing on a Friday. I don't remember the date, but I remember that he told me that regardless of what Chris and Katie decided, that he really needed some help and would, can you please help me? And, after realizing that he was, in my opinion, he was really struggling, just in general. I went and talked to Randy Harris, Caleb's father, and they were in a situation where they didn't really care to have, a whole lot of media attention. They talked on the phone, him and Seth did, and Randy said, I really think that you ought to help the guy. And so I agreed to help him. That's something I hear over and over again, that I've inserted myself into these cases, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Randy was a friend and coworker of mine. He asked me to help him. I helped him until he didn't need the help anymore. Seth asked me to help him, and I told him I would help him until he didn't need my help anymore. So
The way Tony explains this can be very confusing, I think, to a lot of people. He will go from saying he's basically doing charity by helping Seth, and then at other times he will refer to Seth as his client.
That maybe you and him and Justin could sit down and talk about this and work this out?
I can tell you, I can tell you that at this point, there's probably not going to be any conversation between Trevor Lee and myself, and I highly doubt that there would be with Seth.
People need to understand that some bridges are worth burning to the ground.
I'm not going to speak for him. I think that, there's just been too many things that have been said, and I'm not talking about him. Let me clarify that. I'm just pointing out how we got to where we're at. I just think that bridge is not going to be rebuilt. But, he's got Seth's number, and, if Seth wanted to talk to him, he could reach out to Seth, and I'm sure Seth would have a conversation with him if he chose to. But, I can't speak for him on that. I mean, Seth is, in contrast to what a lot of people think, Seth is a big boy, and he's not a weak man, and he does do, for the most part.
Why are you up here then instead of him? Or why is he not up here with you?
Well, ma'am, she asked me to come up.
No, I was just wondering, but Seth was in the chat, and I asked, like, he disappeared, but then you're up here. That's not no dig. I was just, I was just wondering.
Well, first off, Seth is out of town. And
no, you can just say he can't make it. That's okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah,
Well,
and I am, my job is to represent him.
And this is more circle talk from Tony. He says that Seth can speak for himself, but then he instantly says, well, I'm his representative. That's why I'm here.
So, I have the answers to the questions Britney was asking, and she was kind enough to invite me up, and I figured I would answer those questions.
In my opinion, this was damage control. He hasn't really answered anything straightforward since he's been on panel, in my opinion.
I've never dodged a question unless it involves Seth and something that he doesn't want to answer. But I have no issue answering any questions. I have nothing to hide. So if you've got a question that you think is a hard question.
I've got a hard question.
Do it.
I've got one. I've had like 3 people text me this. And I've heard about a dinner, but I don't know anything about it. And I'll just read what it is.
Fire away.
It was, and again, I support Seth because I believe he's innocent, but I just like to hear your opinion on this.
Okay.
Allegations about Seth being inappropriate. The dinner after the vigil, the one Pascal abruptly left. There are screenshots floating around that Seth allegedly made pervy comments to Jaden's girlfriend. I have no idea who Jaden is.
Spanky, you don't know who Jaden is, and you've been covering this case multiple times a day for months on end. Give me a break. Jaden was the sweet young man that was out there with Seth searching every day. He was also the one that JT Olson called the cops on and said that he showed a weapon. Jaden and his mom both were out there searching quite extensively in the beginning of the story.
I didn't hear any comments. Quite frankly, at that dinner, we were in Red Robin. It was very loud. Pascal left because it took us a while to get seated, and he had I'll just say this, he had some people with cameras in his face at the vigil, and that was the reason he left. It had nothing to do with anything other than that. I walked into his car. We had a great conversation. We're still friends today, still talk on a regular basis. But I can tell you that I spent most of my dinner talking to T-Rev. I had never met him in person. He had some hard questions for me.
I can only imagine how hard T-Rev questions are. Like, dude, did you hear my new song? It's a banger, yeah.
Relating to my background and things that were being said, and we talked through those things, and I did not hear, most of the time, Seth was sitting next to Michaela. I was sitting across from Seth and next to T-Rev. And
we should call T-Rev Mr. Steal Your Girl.
I did not hear anything that he said that was inappropriate.
So is this the Jaden? Jaden said I was there. Is this the Jaden that was at the dinner?
It may very well be.
So I heard what was stated. I pray to God that it's not true what they're saying is said. I pray to God that's not true. But I mean,
I can tell you that I can say that that Jaden and his girlfriend are like family to Seth. And, you know, if Seth ever had done anything to offend them, they would talk to him directly about it. But I can tell you that they love him like a father figure. So I would not be surprised if this was more manufactured information.
I'll be honest, it is kind of concerning to me that Seth surrounds himself with people that are significantly younger than him and seems to have a pattern of doing so.
So, Tony, I'm going to ask this. 'Cause I'm not even going to lie. Like, this thought's crossed my mind before, too, because with these cases, especially this case, it's been crazy, okay? It's been crazy. So, this person says, if you are comfortable asking, I think many of us would like to know if Tony knew Chris Proudfoot through the crane industry. Tony as a salesman and Chris Proudfoot as an operator.
That's the question I had. Did you know Chris Proudfoot prior to this case?
1,000% knows.
Sometimes I listen to the questions that these people ask and I think, how do these people survive in the real world, truly?
I did not never have knew of Chris or Katie or any other family or anything like that. And I probably talked to him, I want to say 2 or 3 times I talked to him and Katie together. And honestly, I think that when they could not get over the fact that Seth is the one that had brought me in and was trying to get me to represent the whole family. We did an interview with Pascal. It was the first interview that we did. We made it very clear that we were, you know, they were still up in the air on whether or not they were going to use me. And I made it very clear that we were not going to talk bad about Chris or Katie, that we were simply going to talk about Sebastian.
And as we all know, that didn't last long. But I don't think there was intent of it lasting long, if I'm being honest. And I don't think that was necessarily just on the Proudfoot side either.
We did that. I came back over from my office to my house, and I was sitting in the recliner in the bedroom, and my wife was, "Hey, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you guys had fun. You too, buddy." And so I was sitting in the recliner in my bedroom, and it was about 10:30 at night, and I get a call from Chris, and I thought that he was calling to tell me that he thought we had a good interview and he appreciated us not letting anybody pile on Katie or anything like that. And he called and started getting nasty with me. And without going into great detail, when we got off the phone, we had an agreement that he wasn't going to talk to me like he's talked to some of these ladies. So
go figure, Chris being upset with people because they have intentionally painted false narratives about his wife. Shocking.
And I did cuss him out, and I own that, and I'd do the same thing again. And I talked to him on speakerphone in front of my wife, and I never talked to the man again after that night.
I want to take us back to a moment in time when Seth and Chris actually had a discussion on Web Sleuth's panel about Tony Mathis.
I got a few questions to ask Chris.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
You can. Yes, he can hear you.
Hey, Chris. So why did you texted me the other day about something I'd already sent Katie an email?
Say it one more time. All I heard was something about an email sent.
Why did you text me about an email I sent on Monday to Katie?
Because I didn't see the information in what you're referring to as Tony Mathis's phone number. I didn't see it. So that's why I asked for it.
I mean, come on, Chris. If we're going to work together, more than a week communication between the people, like I'm sending stuff to you and Katie.
Okay, so hear me out. I told you.
Okay.
I told
Let's
you
not come
Seth,
into
that we
a
will work
okay?
together.
All right.
I explained to you I'm willing to work with you. You asked me some questions in regard to this dog handler. You asked me questions in regards to going on a social media platform. You've asked me questions about hiring a PR person that will speak for all of us and keep everybody off of these platforms. That's what you asked. Now, if you think I'm not going to do my homework and dig into people and find out who they are first, you're crazy. Because I would expect you to do the exact same thing if I gave you a name.
Sounds to me like Chris and Katie were actually open to the idea of having a PR guy that would speak for all of them. But then Chris did his homework.
I had a question regarding, there's actually a couple, and one will come back to me in a minute. I forgot what it was. But I'm trying to think about things that I've heard that you might know the answer to. Let's talk about the news interview with Seth when he was on the boat with Sonar.
Oh, yes, please, Brittany. Let's talk about that.
I am so sick of hearing this. People are saying that that boat was rented for the sole purposes of Seth to do a photo op, and that there was no search that day.
He probably could have borrowed a boat for that. To be
I'm
honest. That's a reach.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Oh, Brittany, why do you do this to yourself? Well, let's take a quick little look-see-loo at a clip from BJ.
Seth isn't using sonar. If y'all think that Seth is the one that's in that boat using the sonar, he's not using sonar. That video that we seen on the news was a prop. It was just them getting him to. He's riding in the boat for the news footage, but in the actual search for Sebastian, right? That because it was for the video, but if he's not doing that in the actual search, it's a photo op. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Wait, did she just call it a photo op?
Actual search is there's experts with him.
Are you calling Tony Mathis an expert?
It was my boat. It's still my boat. We searched with another couple that came to town to help that were in the boat with us. We searched for 4 days. It was probably 104 degrees in the shade those days. And we searched until he just couldn't go any longer. Each day, there was no, when I talked to Jamie Vaughn at Channel 2 News, she asked me how the search was going. And I told her that, kind of gave her the rundown. I gave her the process of looking for things that didn't belong, items of interest, so to speak. She asked me to send her a picture of Seth driving the boat. We moved out to an area on a mud flat so that it wouldn't show anybody where we were searching. And I gave her the picture she asked for. And that was really it.
In other words, B-roll footage.
Unfortunately, they went on further, and I gave her a 30-minute dissertation. There you go. There's Jaden right there.
Yep, I want to make sure that's highlighted. Look at that, you guys.
I'm just telling you guys, there's so much misinformation. It's like a rainstorm of information every day we get out of bed.
Unfortunately, sir, you've played a big role in that.
Well, this right here is particularly disgusting, Tony, because I didn't want to repeat it, but I'm going to tell you what they are claiming that he said.
I've already heard it. I heard it earlier today.
It's sickening, you guys.
But that's not the first person to claim he said inappropriate things.
And I'm going to tell you something else that I've heard. And here's another question I got for you to maybe dispel. So they're saying that Seth search teams, he ran the search teams off because he was being very inappropriate with all the women that were helping.
Well, let me just tell you this.
You can pause to read if you would like to. These come from JLR's X account. So the validity of these is completely up in the air.
You've got some nice ladies on the panel tonight. If you were volunteering helping somebody and they made you feel uncomfortable one time, would you continue to keep coming back and coming around that person?
Never.
Actually, unfortunately, yes, many would, because it's about a missing child. So they would sacrifice themselves to find a missing child. But instead of saying, no, he's never made any advances like that, you almost attempt to shame people that he's made inappropriate comments to. Interesting.
I mean, that should tell you everything you want to know. And Jaden, if you're listening, I hope you're doing okay, buddy. Jaden is a phenomenal kid. His girlfriend is incredible. His family's incredible. Very important part of Seth's life. And the fact that people are even saying that is absolutely disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, you need to go to spokesperson school because you should have just answered the question straight on. Yes or no. Did he make inappropriate comments to people? Because unfortunately, the situation with Jaden isn't the first and the only person that has said he's made inappropriate comments to them or made them feel uncomfortable. I was not there, so I cannot tell you what actually happened. But Tony's little attempt to shame people that would come back to help find a missing child is ridiculous and disgusting.
Yeah, because you're labeling this man as a predator.
That's the easiest thing. So the easiest thing online is that person's a crackhead or that person's a pedo. Sorry, Britney, but that's not the best way. But you know what I mean. That's why I kind of don't believe it, because it's just so easy. I mean, it's like Amber Heard. As women, we're taught we trust what the woman says always, but no, it's 2024 and women lie and they get it over on men all the time. I'm sorry. So that is hard for me. I want proof of that before I condemn a man of that.
Again, I wasn't there, so I don't know if comments were made that were inappropriate in nature or not. But I'm going to show you another reminder of a clip that came directly from Seth that makes me extremely uncomfortable about his behavior. Because I ask you again, what does a 22-year-old have in common with a 12-year-old? This is something that BJ has continually overlooked and refused to acknowledge.
Oh shit. Excuse my language.
Katie could be a swinger. I've known Katie since she was 12 years old. Started dating when she was 18. I'm 10 years older than her, and I never knew her to be a swinger.
I'm sorry. I find that to be extremely odd.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I don't. One thing you'll very rarely hear me do, if ever, is actually defend myself. I hate to qualify things that are being said, and if you start defending, it qualifies those things. But
You don't defend, you deflect a lot, Tony.
don't you think it's pretty sick that they did an overlay of a private part and tried to make it look like I exposed myself when I'm talking about a child?
So,
We've already shown the clip of that. Move along.
so one thing about that, Tony, there is someone said they had the original one.
Well, you know that's not true if you know anything about TikTok.
Tony, you sound a little defensive if you ask me. Numerous people were restreaming that as it went on, so they also captured the original.
Because the only guy that has the original is the account owner. And I played the original on a live the next night for everybody to see. And then the girls that were in the panel also told everybody we were on the live. It didn't happen, but we're going to play the live again. And I videoed me going into the live folder, picking the live from the previous night and played it through. But it's a very, very simple editing trick. I fly a drone and I have an editing software I use. And all you have to do is stack a shadow over the video itself and drag that into 2 or 3 seconds of duration. And there you've got an overlay. You know how it works, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought it was anything to begin with personally, but
then
what I question is why you're making up an elaborate story of things that didn't actually happen to cover this up. Why not just say, look, it was a green screen glitch. I don't know what it was that you saw. I'm sorry. But instead, you've concocted this elaborate lie.
They took that video and sent it to my employer and tried to damage my family's income.
My God.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't agree with that whatsoever.
Cut this too far.
I've always had questions about that, regardless if it's Tony Mathis
Right.
or it's Justin. I would have problems because just the logicality of that doesn't even make sense. Like,
Britney, didn't you do an entire live stream talking about it?
So, you're talking about a 29-year marriage that I have, a very good marriage. You're talking about a college graduate and another child that's 15. And you're willing to damage their livelihood because of why? You don't like the guy that said chose to help him? I mean, that's crazy.
I will never be okay with somebody intentionally trying to damage your family's income, but I also will not be okay with or condone the harassment and stalking of the biologic mother and stepfather of the missing child. You know, the child that you are supposed to be representing the biologic father of, that you condone the harassment and stalking that they've received.
Yeah, it was a crazy act for sure.
So, when people have gotten to the point that they've gotten this dramatic and vile,
Yeah.
or they're causing problems for what we're trying to do, it's very hard for me to want to go back and try to mend fences with them because I wasn't friends with them to begin with, and they weren't in Seth or my life, before this happened. So when somebody shows their true colors, I mean, it doesn't really benefit us to go back and try to turn somebody bad good, if that makes sense.
Well, no.
Like lying over a green screen glitch.
There's no questions. There's no questions off limits for me as long as it's, as long as you're not asking me to, share private stuff about Seth, which I know you wouldn't do, and
no,
as long as you're not asking me to read Seth's mind or whatever.
No, and from the way that you've explained it, you pretty much see that we do support him. We do. I think it's horrible, and it's almost like people, no matter what the man does, there's always an ill motive that they seem to think that he has.
Seth is a grown man who has made some very poor choices, in my opinion. He is also the father of a missing child.
And which is bringing me to this question. Tasha, thank you for asking this because I've questioned this myself. Tony, do you think that the Proudfoots or the Bower Socks are paying creators off to talk bad about Seth to take the heat off of them?
Shit, I don't know.
I know that's a hard one to answer because, like,
if you had to just answer under, like, not if you were just answer on your gut, what would you say? Like, take a professional hat off for this 10 seconds. What's your gut tell you?
Listen, I just think that's all far-fetched. I mean,
okay, that's fair.
Sometimes I wish these true crime creators would sit back and listen to themselves. That doesn't even make sense that Chris and Katie would be paying anybody and then filing for TROs on Betty, opening up more legal processes for themselves. If you think that they're going to be this sly and doing dirty stuff behind the scenes and paying people to do dirty things, meanwhile filing for ROs to protect their family, you probably should log off for a while. But Chris and Katie are donating towards billboards for their missing child.
It's like me paying somebody to stop somebody. I mean,
But Tony, you have a Venmo transaction that says beating up B socks to Betty. A little bit different there, sir.
we've all got families, and regardless of what I think about Chris or Katie, regardless of what I think about law enforcement or anybody else, I mean, if I don't have proof, I'm gonna keep doing my job. I mean, you don't ever hear me hardly ever talk about anything to do with Chris or Katie. When I talk about law enforcement, you hear me say that I think my client deserves better communication and more answers.
In my opinion, that is why you have a team. Each team member has a specific role. So while you might not be going at law enforcement, your team member, BHB, is. And here's an example of BHB going at law enforcement.
I think we need to be very cautious and careful because, again, we do have somebody working with the Proudfoots inside that Sumner County Sheriff, and I believe that 100%.
No proof, but she believes it. Okay, Betty.
But I don't get specific. I don't attack a guy that's out there trying to do his job. I just simply say that I think the communication could be better. And I think that they should answer the question, are you any closer today to finding Sebastian than you were February 26th? And I think that's a fair question.
He sure has that line down pat, doesn't he?
It is. I do too. I do too, because it's amazing to me that I'm really shocked that they haven't given us a press conference yet to kind of quell some of the rumors that have been dredged up.
I agree. And here's what I think, Brittany. I watched, another rumor you've heard is that I was trying to represent the families of the Idaho 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Law enforcement doesn't owe us anything, truly.
Which is absolutely absurd. I'll
But
put that.
you were there. Did you go to Moscow?
I did. I'll tell
That's
you
what I
exactly.
thought. Yep.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I never followed true crime until Gabby Petito, because I had a teenage daughter. That one kind of hit home with me, and I took an interest in it, and I started watching it when I was over at my office working, and then I kind of got to where I followed a bunch of these creators. So I kind of followed them right into the Moscow case after that. So I took my family to ski in Big Sky, Montana for our family vacation, and when I just was intrigued with that, that house and everything that had happened, because again, three of those girls were essentially teenage or a little older children like my daughter. And so when I dropped my family off at the hotel or at the airport there in Bozeman, Montana, they flew home, and I started my work trip, which is usually about 3 weeks. Well, I was sitting over in western Montana in a town called Missoula. And,
I've heard of that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And so I'm sitting over there I dropped them off Saturday, and I thought, I'm sitting over here on Sunday and I got nothing to do. So I pulled up my GPS, and I was like 3 hours from Moscow.
It's actually more like 4, but go on, Tony.
And I thought, you know what, I'm going to drive over there and check that town out, see that house, and just, and my main mission was to take something, which I did, and put it on, the little memorial in front of the house. Well, I'm standing out there. They had a security guy out there, and they had a tent set up, and they had some media people out there. Now this would have been, give you an idea time frame wise, would have been like the second week of January.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to a guy from Fox News, and he says, I really wish we had a drone. I'd like to get some drone footage of over the house and then kind of over the Sigma Chi house and whatnot. And I said, well, I actually have a drone in my truck. If you'd like, I'll sign a release and give you, if you tell me what you want, I'll get you some footage. And so I launched the drone, and I gave him, got him what he wanted, and gave him the SD card, let him download it. And then I went over to the corner club to watch a football game. And while I was over there, I pulled my laptop out, and I thought, I've got some cool pictures and some video. I'm just going to make a tribute video to the, to the 4 victims. And I don't have, if you looked at my YouTube channel, I think I got like 4 followers. And I thought, I'll just put this on YouTube so I can put it on Facebook, because I got a lot of friends back home that are following the case. And, so I posted that video. Well, unfortunately, when I got involved in this, my Facebook was pretty much public. It's not now. But somebody went and took that video from Moscow and took it and ran with it. And the next thing you know, I'm trying to be somebody's spokesperson.
Oh,
so that's how crazy that got twisted.
Sounds to me like a typical crime tourist.
And that video, by the way, is still on my YouTube channel.
Do you know what happened with Caleb Harris's social medias, his TikTok and stuff? After he went missing, apparently. So there's a comment here, caught my eye. Ask about Caleb Harris TikTok being taken over after it was monetized.
So
what's that mean?
First off, it was never monetized. I started that TikTok account. Cindy on TikTok helped me get that started.
Oh, I didn't follow that case. So I was just
Yeah,
asking.
I built that account up to, I don't know, 9 or 10,000 followers. When and I named it, Find Caleb Harris or whatever it was back then. When I quit representing Randy, my goal was to turn that TikTok account over to, to Randy. Randy told me to keep the TikTok account. He said, take Caleb's pictures off of it. He said, we don't want anything to do with any social media whatsoever.
He could have just easily deleted the account.
Well,
What?
at that time, I didn't have a We Are
I'm
Sebastian.
sorry, whose bank account's linked to the account? I just want to, there's a bank account linked to the social media. I'm a creator. I know I have a TikTok too. Whose bank account? Was it your bank account? There's a bank account.
There is no bank account attached to that
There's
account.
nothing. So the money that has gotten, was there any money raised? I don't know. I'm asking. So now my mind's like, dude, what the heck? Was there money raised on that? On that account, Tony?
No, ma'am. There was coins that were raised that I'm assuming. I'm not a guy that understands TikTok inside and out.
Same. I'm learning it too.
Yeah,
So I don't think I think you have to have so much to even cash it out. That'd be something
Correct.
really simple for you to go on your thing, screenshot, edit out whatever, like your name, whatever. But you can. That's an easy thing for you to show that you didn't cash out, just so you know.
Yeah.
You do not have to link a bank account to TikTok in order to get coins. That's not how it works.
There's no bank account that's ever been attached.
Okay.
There is a coin balance on there, and I'll tell you what I did is when we got Sebastian's, when I ended up taking over that account because Randy didn't want it, I just changed it to my name. But what I did is there was a coin balance, and anytime I would go in anybody's lives that was doing a good job of covering Sebastian, I would buy those gifts with those coins and gift them to the creators. But there's never been a bank account attached to it.
I didn't know we could do that. Okay, cool. I just learned.
I could have sworn in the beginning of this, Cher said that she doesn't ask questions that she doesn't already know the answers to. What happened to that, Cher?
Something new.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can
Well,
buy
you
like
can prove that, I think. Check your thing and maybe screenshot that, Tony. That'd be just a simple thing for you to be able to knock it out of there, right? But I
Again, that is none of your business.
people like myself do to be productive of this case going forward.
I would say the biggest thing you can do is just hammer your area with flyers because we don't know where he's at.
Even like across all borders too, right?
It doesn't matter. Canada,
Okay.
Mexico, anything
fair.
attached to the United States. I mean, I've put flyers in North Dakota. I put them in Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota. I keep them in my truck and, all of that. So.
Okay.
You notice he didn't say being factual in your coverage about Sebastian because Sebastian's dignity is extremely important.
Okay, I just want to show you some of these, Tony, because this is just at least so you can see what I was talking. Where the screenshot.
I can't see
share.
that, Brittany. I'm sorry. I'm on
Right,
the
I don't
phone.
know how I can make it any bigger.
I wouldn't be able to see it anyway, but are these supposedly texts?
Yeah, so these are text messages, and they're from, God, I can barely see it. I think it's Kayla TikTok and
Who?
a person named, is that Kayla TikTok, you guys? It's hard to see it. But it's
One of them says Paris. Is it Paris?
Tony, come on now. You know what groups you were in with who.
Just give me the gist of it, Brittany.
Back up. They're talking about. Okay, so basically they're saying that you started this group with the purposes of taking down JLR, Cluminati, Dolly Vision, JS for Justice, and Barbecue Lady. And then
there was no group started with that purpose.
Hold on a second.
So Tony is acknowledging that there was a group. That just wasn't the sole purpose. I'm sure there was multiple things that were being discussed.
Hold on a second. So then you show these. I guess this is where people are arguing. I don't even know because I'm not going to be able to read it up either. But you say that there was no group at all.
Oh no! Remember I said that we had a Facebook group of creators that supported Seth, and there was 3 people in that group that after there was a big blow up where they chased down a creator's mom and all that, they got sideways with some of the other folks in the group. Again, this was all going on in a subgroup that I was not in. I didn't even know that this live was going on, and they had this mom on there that I guess there was some essay involved in this woman's childhood, and I mean it got crazy, and they had a falling out, and it turned into a big pissing match, and unfortunately the 2 ladies that were the catalyst behind it, when they bounced, they tried to deflect to everybody else, but I mean they were on the ground literally digging into this woman's past, her background, her family. It was nasty. So
that was at one time your team members.
My group was created with like-minded people that were out there supporting Seth, which is what I've done from day one. Tried to find creators that supported Seth and his team.
Right. Didn't some of those team members attempt to help you do damage control, like doxing other creators such as Savage, Queen Bee, JLR?
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed. There's a reason that we are so close to Betty because she supports Seth and his team. You know, and I tried to do the same thing on TikTok, but it got to where there was so many people that were fighting before I got there, and I didn't understand all the dynamics of that. And it just got to the point where I just you don't ever see me on a live anymore. I mean, I'll go in a chat and support somebody, but you don't see me on a live because it just got to where it was a complete shit show.
One, you had a major hand in creating Tony.
You don't have to go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's okay, Brittany. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask this question regarding Sebastian, being that you work with Seth, and you don't have to answer it if you're not comfortable. But what do you have a theory or a main idea of how, or maybe what you think might have happened to Sebastian? Do you think he ran away?
I will tell you that I had a lot of theories in Caleb's case because I was there from day one.
Yeah.
I have never had a theory with Sebastian. I was very late to the case. What I can tell you is what we know from law enforcement, that there was no proof that Sebastian ever walked out of that home on his own.
I'm going to insert a clip from one of the initial press conferences by law enforcement on this case. Nothing at this point has changed, and everything is still on the table.
There is no evidence to support foul play is involved in the disappearance of Sebastian.
But at this point, you don't rule it out?
We're not ruling anything out.
So 5 weeks, and you guys covered so much ground. Searching, going back, researching, checked out every case of a possible sighting, nothing confirmed. Not a trace of Sebastian anywhere, nothing found. No footprints, no video, nothing.
Nothing that has taken us to locate Sebastian.
And are there any working theories?
We come up with theories almost daily and try and investigate and make sure that we're doing everything we can to find Sebastian.
Share any of those?
No, sir.
2 questions, if I may. Have you ruled out Sebastian's mom's and stepdad's involvement in this case? And as a follow-up, have you cleared their alibi?
I think the TBI said it best. They've been nothing but cooperative with law enforcement since day one of this investigation. There is no evidence to support foul play on the part of Sebastian's parents.
And although social media has ran wild with speculation and theories, this still stands true from law enforcement. Everything is on the table, but they have no evidence of foul play. And this goes for all 3 parents of Sebastian.
And my mind goes a lot of different places when I hear that. But,
yeah.
if I were to attack the mother and stepfather with no proof, it'd be no different than what's happening to me every day.
Yeah.
Tony, haven't you said some things about the parents of Sebastian? Oh, wait. Not only that, but other team members have. Let's play the clip.
Thing I believe that would absolutely bring my son home is some good 70s detective work.
Shoe leather.
Maybe unethical now, but it sure would work in this case.
A little bit of waterboarding, maybe.
You're not the first person that said that.
I'm telling you, people. I'm barbaric. I mean, I'm a barbaric woman when it comes to the crime and punishments and stuff like that. I'm an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth type of girl. There's no middle of the road for
I
me.
was raised Old Testament. In the end, we all are blind and justice is blind.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to me you sure got quite the grin on your face there when they're talking about old school detective work and BHB says waterboarding when referencing the mother of the missing child.
I feel like it would be different.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, because, and even for you, Jules, I feel like I can say this, because some people would say that we attack them. But if you listen to my content, to Jules, and pretty much anybody that I affiliate with, it's not even really that we're accusing them of making Sebastian disappear. It's our critique of the way that Sebastian has been treated.
And this is why I will never have any respect for Britney J, because she just blindly goes along with anything. We don't know truly how Sebastian was treated in any of their homes, but their own statements are concerning. Let me insert another clip of Seth talking about his relationship with Sebastian.
Have you ever been contacted by DCS at all? Ever in the past?
Not here. Not here. I'd had it at CPS in California.
And can you share what that was related to? Or is that...
My son went to school and told his teacher that I beat his ass. And when CPS showed up, I was like, I told him to clean his room or I was going to bust his butt. Did you bust his butt? No, he cleaned his room. Mm-hmm. There was the threat of a butt whooping.
Sometimes I wonder why Britney hasn't gone back and listened to these interviews. And then I remember these.
Right.
You know? And he was like, well, he said that you were going to beat him. And I'm like, wow, okay. So when he came home, I literally turned on Mortal Kombat and I turned the blood action on. And I showed him what a beatdown was through video games. I was like, you see
Tony sure got a grin on his face with that one.
all that blood and everything, son? That's a beatdown. I was going to bust your butt. Come on. Really? It was like, I'm sorry, Dad. And I'm like, there's no reason to be sorry. It's educate yourself on the verbiage and the words that you use. Because you can blow things out of proportion and not even realize what you're doing. So,
Do you think that that might, because of some of these things in the past where he did blow them out of proportion, do you think that, you know, maybe some of these things were either blown out of proportion or do you believe that, because that was a long time ago. When he was in California, how old was he, like 7, 8?
most of those were, he wasn't. It was, I want to say 5 or 6.
Gotcha.
You
So
know,
he just
Britney addressed that they were concerned about how Sebastian was treated, meanwhile completely ignores anything that Seth himself has said.
With the words that come out of their mouth, their omission. You know what I mean? Like spanking a child on the spectrum with a belt. I have a kid who's on the spectrum. First of all, I don't think you should, that kind of punishment should be inflicted on any child. But one who's on the spectrum, the man admitted that before his foot went in the door with moving in with Katie, Sebastian had to give away the 2 favorite pets that he had. Like, I mean, the kid started losing everything he loved the minute that
She has such a problem with Chris getting rid of animals, but Seth had gotten rid of dogs of Sebastian's previous to Chris ever being in the picture.
outfit came around. So
Do I think that they probably know more than what they're letting on? I would say that that's a fair opinion. Do I think that Chris is a bad guy? Absolutely, I do.
And that goes for you also, Tony. We don't have to like you based on your behavior that you've displayed publicly.
And I think he's a bad guy because I have personal experience with him and I don't like him.
What?
Or could it be the fact that you are the spokesperson for the biological father who has came out and said things like this?
And knowing that there's 2 other people that are responsible for him, it seems that they're having the fucking grandest time of their goddamn fucking life. Well, I hope they fucking enjoy it. Because I believe in fucking karma. And when it comes around, I hope it smacks them in the fucking face. All 3 of us haven't been cleared yet. And I'll tell you right now, had nothing to do with my son's disappearance. Sumner County should understand that I didn't. I've got records where I've had him enrolled for school. He should be living with me right now.
Could it be possible that your son is a victim of an online predator at all, or they've eliminated that possibility?
I don't know. Talk to Sumner County. Maybe they'll tell you.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you
do
this.
with the case and stuff.
Mhm.
If it's impertinent to the case, they're not going to tell me. And it's not because I might come tell you all. It's because they keep things close to the chest, which I have learned since this has started. I don't tell anybody shit anymore because there's very few people that I can trust. I mean, literally, what just fucking happened in the last 3 or 4 days is evidence of why I don't trust fucking people. Fucking snakes. Where I come from, we kill snakes. We cut their heads off.
Cut the head off the snake.
Skin that bitch, throw it in a skillet, and watch it fucking squirm. And you eat it with a little salt and pepper and hot sauce.
There you go.
Seems to me, Tony, you might be taking on a little bit of your client's attitude towards the Proudfoot family.
The fact that you will admit that you think he's a bad guy, you got some respect from me. Like,
You got
that
me
is-
too.
It took
He
me a
is-
while, Jules.
He is. In fact, on my videos where I was addressing this case, most of my commentary was on his behavior that he demonstrated to all of us to see. There wasn't much conjecture. There wasn't any accusation. It was, look, you are really presenting as a man who would be mistreating kids and women. So thank you.
People like this actually scare me because she claims to be a mental health professional. A mental health professional that is completely willing to disregard that law enforcement says there is no evidence of foul play or even a crime at this point in time. It's an open investigation. But she doesn't like the stepfather of the missing child. So she is giddy hearing Tony say that he thinks that Chris is a bad dude also. Meanwhile, they don't know these people in real life, just ran with salacious rumors and tidbits from social media. Thank goodness in America we have a justice system that is innocent until proven guilty and a court of law.
Or at least admitting that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I can't say much about Katie because unfortunately, I would have liked to have had a conversation with her, but you can't talk to her, as you've heard Seth say, without talking through Chris. And I never.
Which is controlling.
It is, and I got to hear her in the background, but never got to have a private conversation with her.
It's interesting to me how they are completely unwilling to even remotely think that Katie could have made the decision that she doesn't want to have communication with them and wants Chris to.
So, my opinion is that, she holds the key, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I have a strong opinion of Chris from personal experience, and it's not a good one.
A spokesperson for the biologic father of a missing child who is extremely comfortable painting narratives against the other family members that the missing child loves. It feels exceptionally gross to me.
But we want to get you to say this because they keep saying
awkward. We want to get you to say this. That's a little strange if you ask me.
Saying that Seth was fired from his job.
No.
It says, please ask the question because chat keeps asking it. Was Seth fired 2 days after Sebastian went missing?
No, ma'am. He's waiting on medical clearance, and he'll be back working at the same job.
That's what I thought. I also want to verify. Seth told me that Chris did not get him his job. Not that that's really important, but that's another thing.
Well,
I'm so tired of hearing.
The status of Seth's employment is none of our business.
My biggest problem with him is not that he spanked him with a belt. I think that's a problem, but I got a problem with using the R word to describe Sebastian.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
That's
But Tony got a big old grin when he listened to Seth showing Sebastian a bloodbath when he was 5 or 6 years old.
So that would be the biggest reason I think that he's not a good human.
right. It's absolutely it's horrifying is what it is.
What happened to the questions you were going to be asking him, Brittany?
I felt like, well, I mean, I continue to feel that way, but all along I have felt like that maybe the Proudfoot family or the Bowerstocks, that maybe they had some friends that were, I don't know, maybe politically connected in the local area. Some of those families that have money within a small town, they can sometimes have some kind of nepotism type connections, right? Do you think that Chris Proudfoot is friends with some of those investigators or cops or no?
And here's a clip from BHB, another team member.
And then we got law enforcement cutting everybody off, including their community. I hope you guys do not vote for Eric Craddock. If this is the way he runs his police department, then we got some major problems, and it's probably time to have somebody that's really, truly law and order in that community. I understand some people have lived in this community through, since the 1700s. And that,
I mean, shit, I'm sure there's somebody 324 years old.
It is like the good old boys club in some of the sense. Well, I hate to tell you, this is a bigger than the good old boys club. Okay, this is a worldwide news story. This is not a small or just a statewide news story. This is a worldwide news story.
It should be awareness for a missing child.
Well, here's what I'll say. I have no proof of any of that, but I grew up in a town called Joplin, Missouri.
Yep.
And it is almost identical to the size of Hendersonville, Tennessee. And to be born and raised in a community and not know some of the people in law enforcement, I think it would be an oddity. So, do I think it's possible that he knows those guys? Yeah, it's possible. Is it possible that, he's got some friends on the force? Yeah, it's possible. But do I think that he's got a relationship with the lead investigators and TBI? No, I don't believe that.
I can't imagine what these people would do in a town with a population of 1,000 or less. They'd go wild.
I think that no different than Caleb's case, that you're always going to hear in these cases that there's some funny business with law enforcement, and I'm real careful to get into, to buying into that.
In my opinion, that's why it's important for them to have team members, because Betty has the corruption bullshit on lock, it seems. Tony doesn't have to.
Tony, I have a question, and I'm going to try to be respectful.
Sure.
I've never been disrespectful, but having Betty on your team, sometimes she can come off a little fresh. Are you okay with all that?
I'm 100% with Betty being aggressive, because what she brings to Seth and what she brings to us far outweighs, any negatives. We all have negatives.
They fully support Betty and her antics. He has been very clear on that. But here's another clip of some of the things Betty has said and or done. This truly bothers me because if Tony was in this for Sebastian, he would not be okay with the things that Betty is saying about Sebastian's loved ones. But I forget, he is the spokesperson of Seth Rogers. And it just so happens to be that Seth Rogers' identity has become the father of missing Sebastian Rogers. Sebastian seems to be the forgotten one once again.
But I guess she murdered her kids, so it probably doesn't matter, allegedly. Right?
I'm not exactly sure how the biological father or the spokesperson of the biological father can support things like this, but this is one of their team members.
And I just don't, I'll tell you that Seth and I look at her like a sister. She does a lot of things to help him. She's never flip-flopped on supporting him. She supported him since she started covering the case.
Tony has also mentioned that he aligns politically with BHB, so none of this is really that shocking to me.
And she's done an awful lot behind the scenes. She spent her own money, her own time. She's been to that area 2 or 3 times now, and will be there again.
She actually spent her subs money, but go on.
And I think that if you see her, come unhinged, I think it's generally because she's reacting to an action, and she's been attacked a lot longer than I've been.
She's bullied. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
That's right.
I'm not being disrespectful at all. I mean, I just wanted to ask you that because I think a lot of people think that. I've heard a lot of people say that.
I don't take that as being disrespectful at all. I mean, we have a place that we stand with Betty, and she is we talk to her daily, and if I asked her to drive on her own dime up to Tennessee to help Seth with something similar to what I asked her to help him with his YouTube, she'd do it in 2 seconds, no questions asked. I mean, she's been incredible for us. And
of course Betty is willing to do any of this stuff because, again, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, if you ask me. That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
The situation that I'm in, I can judge somebody on how they treat Seth and how they treat the rest of his team. And anything outside of that, unfortunately, in this situation, it just doesn't matter.
What about Sebastian's dignity? Shouldn't that matter?
Not wrong. So I'm just going to tell you that.
I think it's amazing that there are people that even question Seth. If I have ever seen someone who was innocent, it's got to be him. It's amazing to me that there's people who think that he had something to do with it. It's just amazing.
It's amazing to me that people can make such strong opinions without any evidence to back them up. Until there is evidence otherwise, I don't think any of the parents are involved in his disappearance. But I do think that certain individuals have been intentionally creating chaos in this case.
Reminded me of my question. Oh my goodness. This is a big one. This is a big one, Tony. Please clear this one up. I'm sure you can. Another major thing that's going around. My God, I saw it all in my chat last night. Seth went missing on the cameras at work from 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. the night Sebastian went missing.
Where'd you hear that at?
It was somebody went into Justin's chat. I think it was it last night, y'all? Yeah, I think it was last night. Somebody went to Justin's chat and was saying that Terry Lynn said it, which I talked to Terry Lynn and I've never heard Terry Lynn say that.
No, that's baloney. He didn't.
Yeah. Here is another clip of Seth's own words.
Where do you work?
I work for Davidson County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your job or your job title?
Deputy Sheriff, and I work in the Corrections Department.
And where were you the night that Sebastian disappeared?
At work.
And you said you were at a
correction center.
And so you were at a jail.
I was in jail.
so you were in jail, and I'm sure there's probably, with it being a jail, it's a very secured area.
Oh yes, I am on camera arriving at 6 p.m. into the garage, which is a secure garage. You have to have badge access to get in or out. Mm-hmm. And then I'm leaving at like 7:30 the next morning, exiting out of the garage.
And I am sure if there is a problem with any of their alibis, that law enforcement will be the ones to get to the bottom of it.
Here's what I'll say to that. You know why he was late getting a message, because he's, got to lock his phone up when he's at work. So he didn't, he's not able to have his phone out. The other thing that's really odd to me, I believe they should have called the jail. They should have got him on the phone. I also believe that they should have made him aware that, that there were reports that his son wasn't being treated properly. And I think the ball was dropped there.
And once again, here is Seth's own words.
Let me know, but I want you to kind of go back to the morning of February 26th when you listened to your voicemail message and you heard Chris on it. Was it Chris that was on the voicemail?
The text message.
Text message. And
I had a missed call and a text message from Christopher Proudfoot telling me to 911. So I called him.
And what was that conversation like?
Don't be angry or mad. Sebastian's missing. What are you fucking talking about? My son is missing.
Did you find the statement, don't be angry or mad, odd?
Yes and no. I mean, my son's missing. You know, distraught would have been a better word. Confused on why he's gone.
I can't imagine the flood of emotions that Seth had learning that Sebastian was missing. I'm sure it was intense.
I think the bigger problem is when you've got your child is missing. You
got to be kidding me.
I don't know. I don't know how anybody calls their husband first. He calls a buddy at the sheriff's department or whatever, and then the third call is to 911. To me that blows me away.
Respect. Absolutely.
It astonishes me how many people try to spin this into something it's not. According to even Seth, Chris was in Memphis. So instead of getting a hold of Memphis's dispatch and then having to be rerouted to Sumner County, he skipped those steps and called directly to Sumner County. I don't know if I would have been able to even talk at that time if I was in Katie's shoes.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
What does that even mean, allegedly, Amber? If that's ridiculous. They said, why is the Sebastian groups on Facebook are already posting that Seth ripped Britney J. Oh my Lord. That is not even, isn't that?
Actually, I think the word that Britney used in the beginning is she was lambasted.
And that it's being sarcastic.
He did not rip me at
No.
all. He just said that if I didn't support his team,
He
that
didn't understand what was going on. And for him to bring Tony up here, he's watching this. Now he understands. But at the beginning, he didn't understand what was going on. And
Here's what upset he and I and other members of his team. I can tell you this, Brittany, because you were honest with me. The title to these videos, using my picture and saying, this, is this guy doing this or whatever? I mean, we live in a world where we wake up to those kind of tags, and the person that does that has never even talked to us. And it is frustrating. I would rather see a video titled, we're going to be talking about Tony Mathis tonight. Instead of a title when everybody sees it, they take it as fact, because that's the way most of these people are.
Right.
Of all the titles and the thumbnails that she has done, for this one to cause such a ruckus makes me feel like there might have been a little bit more behind what Seth and Tony were up to. Kind of feels like they want all eyes on them for this upcoming fundraiser that they have going on.
Understand that. Trust me, I'm ripped all up and down on these streets. So I definitely could have did things a lot differently. I'll say that.
Unfortunately, we knew it was only a matter of time before Britney was cut loose, just like all the other creators that have even remotely questioned anything around Seth.
And my thing is this: I was not going to come in here. I was going to exit, the live as well. But when we've got people that are saying that Seth has signed a contract, he's not allowed to speak. At some point it goes from him protecting me to me feeling like I need to protect him. And, that's why I agreed to come in, because, clearly he was protecting me before I came in. But these things like, he's got a contract, he's not allowed to do this or that. I mean, just none of that's true. And, that's why I agreed to come in. I responded, and then you said you had some questions. I'm glad to clear things up. But the problem is, Brittany, that, the people that have made up their mind,
yeah,
they don't care what Seth says. They don't care what I say. They don't give us a chance to get to know us. They don't ask for receipts.
And that's why I found it important to go back and put Seth in your own words with these questions.
They just put it out there,
Well, it's this is a hard lesson that I had to learn. First of all, because I can take accountability on like some people, like what they think of me. But
But I thought you were standing on your principles.
I apologize because I do know how that feels to see, a thumbnail about you that's salacious or, just knowing somebody saying something about you that's not true. I just battled with that the other day. It doesn't feel good. So I do apologize, and I'll gladly change my thumbnail and my title. But I am glad you came up, and you're right. We're not going to make any progress with any of these people. But I do feel like you made the right choice by coming up tonight for the people in my chat, because we do support Seth, and I know how I feel. And to me, I have a tremendous amount of gratitude and respect that you actually were willing to come up in the Lion's Den and answer these questions. So
I would love to hear from the chat. Is there anything that you learned from Tony coming up on panel that you didn't previously know?
You may not have gained anything with these people on the other side, quote unquote, but I guarantee you, as far as people in my community and Justin's, and ours, you did. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah. You appreciate that this man came up on your panel and is lying directly to your faces numerous times?
No problem. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to clear up as many things as I can clear up. The one thing I'll say is that, when I go to bed and I wake up, I work for Seth, and my job is to make sure he's happy and he's taken care of. And
so his job description would entail cleanup crew, making sure Seth is happy, and being the emotional support. Is that what I'm getting?
If I garner support along the way, that's a bonus. But the people that don't support me, don't believe me, don't care for me, whatever, it doesn't change what Seth and I have to do to find his son. And I do my best to block it out.
Then why were you bothered by the thumbnail and title of her video?
Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
Are you guys still putting search teams together and searching out there?
There are private search teams that are out there searching, that are put together by the PI, and I don't have any idea what's going on with that situation, but there are people searching daily that are in Seth's camp.
Okay.
That's all it should be about at the end of the day, is Sebastian being found.
The problem is, if you've ever been to that part of the country, you've got to have something that guides you to an area to search, right? Mm-hmm. And that area is loaded with hundreds of thousands of wooded acres. And, you can't, even for volunteer safety, you can't have people just walking through the woods, especially in the summer when you've got every critter out there known to man, without some reason as to why they're searching where they're searching. Mm-hmm. So, you've got to have, when you're not getting, communication from law enforcement regarding, hey, this is where we think you ought to send your search team, then you've got to rely on your PI to come up with that information and guide the search teams, where she sees fit. So, that's what we're doing now.
But once again, when you were on with Betty, you said law enforcement was communicating.
Well, I mean, I pretty much, that's all I really have that I can think of. Do you have any more questions, Jules? I know it's 2:00 in the morning. I don't think you.
Yeah, I do have a question. Do you feel like, and I'm sorry this isn't about Sebastian specifically, but do you feel like you always attract this much controversy? Is this something new, specific to working with Seth? It does seem like there's been a lot connected with you.
Well, I will say that I had many people tell me, people that I respect tell me to not get involved with this case because of the drama.
Yeah.
And they told me that it was drama from day one.
Tony is correct. It has been drama since day one, way before Tony got involved.
With this case, it's gotten very personal. Family, jobs, everything you can imagine, and it's far worse than it was with Caleb.
Yeah, it seems so strange to me because, and I am going to go back tomorrow and look and try to get it down to actual dates. But it seemed like to me that the drama, and you're right, I think nearly from day one there has been quite a bit of drama. But it seems like it was really focused on Chris, right? Seems like that's where that was the person that was going on all the shows, controversy, and then all the channels would talk about it. And then about the time that you got involved, it seemed like at that point, then Chris suddenly became very compliant and friendly.
Yes.
And then Seth became very combative, and the narrative just completely flipped. And I mean, like within about 3 days.
Yeah, it's.
Unfortunately, unlike a lot of these people want to admit or acknowledge, Seth hand-selected a lot of these characters who caused nothing but chaos in the beginning of the story, such as JLR, Dolly, Sweetie Pilo, T-Rev, and the list goes on and on.
It's kind of one of those things, in my opinion, and I think you're asking for my opinion, but I think that when you have somebody out there in the public eye all the time, that person's going to be the target. Chris was early on. I think the the more that Seth and I are out in the public eye, the more we become the target.
And truthfully, it all should be awareness for Sebastian. That's it.
I think the people that are objective know that it doesn't change the fact that Sebastian was not with Seth, he was with Katie. You know, but there are going to be people that find you to be an easier target when you're consistently in the public eye.
That's true.
Or when your stories are inconsistent and you're causing chaos.
Can I ask regarding Seth being cleared? A lot of people, I'm not going to share how I feel because they'll say I gave you, the answer or whatever they'll say, but I personally don't see anything red flaggish about this. But a lot of people are hung up on the fact that Seth keeps calling himself a suspect.
And once again, I'm inserting a clip of Seth's own words because somebody told me they had never heard Seth call himself a suspect.
I'm not law enforcement in this case. I'm a suspect.
And you have not been cleared?
No, nobody has.
This is currently classified as an open investigation into the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. At this point in time, there is no evidence to even suggest foul play. Now, if that changes, then there will be suspects. But until that point in time, they don't even know what they are really looking at to name somebody suspects, let alone clear somebody.
Well, I think Seth feels that way, but the technical term is that nobody's been cleared.
Again, because there's no crime at this point.
Yes.
And as a law enforcement officer, he's taking that and saying that if you're involved in the case and you haven't been cleared, then you're a suspect. Nobody's named anybody a suspect.
Seth has called himself a suspect numerous times.
Right.
So
that's exactly how I've seen it too. I just don't think that he's, because some people are like, well, technically, no one's been named a suspect. He would be a person of interest, and he's not getting hung up on the technical terms. He's just calling it, he's a suspect. I think.
And no, he's technically not a suspect.
The fact that he's willing, personally, in my opinion, the fact that man is willing to come out and say that,
yes,
makes him look more innocent. A person who was guilty of a crime would never call themselves a suspect.
I bet there's been numerous people that have been convicted of crimes that have called themselves suspects.
Well, I think as a father that knows that he is innocent, that knows that he's not involved, I think that, there may be days where he feels like he's being treated like a suspect.
But would you agree too that, even the FBI will tell you that when these kids go missing, 9 times out of 10, well, actually, I think it's more like 8 times out of 10, it is someone in the home with the kid, right? Yeah. So that doesn't mean that Seth feels like he's a suspect because he's done something wrong. It could be just because of historically the statistics kind of been in that direction, right?
Yeah, I think it has to do with, FBI will use the term that there's a circle, and they slowly work to push people out of the circle.
Yeah.
And I think that generally the people that fill up that circle are the people that are closest to the victim.
Yes.
Which would include his biologic father, Seth Rogers.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
I have another question real quick. The flashlight video, it was a little bit controversial. So first it got reported, then they came back and they said, no, it's the garbage truck. And then some really great, talented people online laid it all out, and we had the realization, no, it can't be the truck. How does Seth experience the whole flashlight video now?
I've never talked to him about it.
Really?
There's a part of me that is really bothered by the fact that Tony doesn't know any of the facts around Sebastian's disappearance that we have learned from law enforcement. What we do know from law enforcement is those lights had no evidentiary value. Could that change down the road? Yes.
We don't talk much about the facts of the case. He would tell me anything that I wanted to know, but I'm not here to get the lowdown on things that he's had shared with him from law enforcement or opinions or anything like that.
I would personally think it's important for the spokesperson of the parent of the missing child to know the facts of the case.
We talk on a personal level about how he's doing, and we talk about events, and we talk about media, and we spend most of our time just talking as brothers and friends.
But you're the spokesman, right?
Well, yes, I'm a spokesperson, but there's not a let's just say there's not a four-corner contract of what that spokesperson does for every father. Like I said before, more than anything else, I'm a friend to him, and I just don't. If he was asking me to go out and
Would
talk
advocator be a better word for you? And you're his advocator?
it would be probably in this situation a much better word.
The word would be advocate. Advocate.
If he was asking me to go out and talk about facts in the case, then I would need to know all those details, but that's not what he's asking me to do.
Clearly, Tony doesn't even really know his role. It changes from day to day.
I've heard a jillion people talk about the trash truck, and I've heard some credible people say that it wasn't a trash truck. I got to tell you guys, I haven't even seen the video.
Oh, you gotta watch it. The trash truck definitely happened, but it happened hours, it's hours apart, so it's definitely two separate situations, and there's no way, the flashlights, they just don't line up. They're not headlights.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard some credible people say that, that they're not symmetrical, they're not this, they're not that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've not seen the video. I think
but it's most important what law enforcement says about the video.
I don't believe there's any part of an autistic child, regardless of how high spectrum he is, that has had an incident with fire ants on his feet. I don't think there's any part of that child that would go outside in the middle of the night with no shoes and socks.
No, because he would,
that incident happened when he was 2 years old.
The thing that I found the most interesting that Chris said was that this was going to be a case they were going to be studying for years to come.
Oh, yeah.
That comment didn't sit well with me at the beginning either. However, the more I thought about it, the more I realized it could just be for the simple fact that a 15-year-old on the spectrum was able to walk out the front door and avoid detection by cameras and not be seen by anybody in the neighborhood. What are your opinions on that?
In an investigation, I think that every law enforcement entity is different. I think that every jurisdiction is different. I think that every case is different. I think that in this case, when you have a public servant who is on camera at work, who has had his electronics dove into, I think they've got everything they need to clear him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's out there now.
They would need to find Sebastian in order to clear Seth.
Plenty of people that have talked about it.
I think it should be out there, yeah.
If law enforcement cannot tell the father that they are any closer today than they were February 26th, then I think that he has the right to bring in other entities to help, like the Cold Case Foundation.
Unfortunately, this is not even considered a cold case at this time.
Right, and so they told him he has to be cleared because, Chris McDonough does. I mean, is that just how it goes? Do you have to be cleared as innocent 100%. In there for them to help you?
100%.
Okay, that's interesting.
So
wow,
that's the drive to get him cleared so that he can bring in additional resources.
Okay, wow. That's interesting because what if all this time he could have had those resources, they could have maybe helped, but just because he can't be cleared, I mean, the man passed a polygraph, right?
The man passed a polygraph from a former FBI polygrapher.
And did he take it once or twice? There's rumors. Can you explain that for me?
He took it twice because the first time he fell asleep.
Right.
He took polygraphs for Nancy Grace, not Ellie.
And Nancy Grace cleared that up.
Yeah.
And she talked about how decorated the FBI polygrapher was, and he passed the test with flying colors. So you got a digital data dump from all of his electronic devices. You got him on camera at work. You've got a clear polygraph. I mean, in our mind, what else do you need to clear him?
Did Seth get any?
And that is why law enforcement says the parents have been cooperative.
His electronics, again with the Wells, they have not gotten any of the electronics even over 3 years later back. Chris Proudfoot saying he got some stuff back. I don't know if that's true, but so has Seth gotten anything back that they removed, like maybe PlayStations or Nintendo Switches, whatever kind of stuff they took?
I think what they did, and I remembered him saying this the other night, but don't quote me on this. I think he got his stuff back, which would be, in my mind, which you would need to clear him. Mm-hmm. But I think there's still a couple of, maybe a Switch, maybe Sebastian's PlayStation. There's a couple things that they kept that, that Seth did not need back to, to operate his daily life. But other than that, Seth got all of his stuff back.
They're going to keep anything that they find of evidentiary value to help find Sebastian.
Do they take the Seth's friend? He goes by the name of Uncle Taco. Are you aware of who this guy is?
My understanding is that they have known him for a long time through online gaming, and maybe they
if he's been investigated though, because I don't like that he's been on. I don't know what live it is. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but that Uncle Taco went on somebody's live, and he right away. Well, the topic is Sebastian, but he's bringing up child porn.
I'm not exactly sure what live stream Cher is talking about. She seems to have details mixed up of a lot of different things. But did Uncle Taco make some very strange comments? Absolutely. But that was mostly done on Britney J's panel with Seth present also.
And so I'm like, why are you talking about that? But it's a Sebastian. It rubbed me wrong. Have you seen that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Guys, Britney, stay with me here. Give me just a second, okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
This would have been the perfect opportunity to set Cher straight.
And I'm seeing some of you guys, I'm doing the best I can.
Interesting.
I'm absolutely doing the best I can. So, I mean, I'm not going to, if the man comes up and talks to me, I'm certainly not going to be disrespectful and cuss him out that's not in my nature.
Don't forget, she's standing on those principles.
Some of you saying you're disappointed in me. I don't.
No, they're disappointed in you for letting me up.
I don't know.
See, Brittany, are you there?
Yeah, are you okay? I noticed your cough. I hope you're all right.
Yeah, I'm good. You know, when you have to go to the bathroom, you set your phone down and go to the bathroom.
Hey,
And you also don't need to lie about a green screen glitch.
I'll answer that question on your screen there.
Yes.
Betty is not our PI, no.
Betty is their loose cannon. That's what Betty is.
That has been a big one. People have totally thought Betty was the PI.
She doesn't have that degree.
She's become like another sister to him and a personal friend and a confidant, but she's certainly not our PI.
I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases.
Okay, is Terry Lynn the PI?
No.
No. Okay.
And I've signed an NDA with the PI, as well as a couple other team members. I couldn't tell you if you guessed it, but I can tell you it's not Betty and it's not Terry Lynn and it's not anybody that you guys would know.
So they have signed NDAs with the PI.
Well, so going back to the the conversation that we had about Trevor Lee, a lot of what you just mentioned was part of the reason that they were asked to step down, and it didn't have anything to do with anything other than you had private investigators that weren't being private. So it had nothing to do with me. I didn't know either one of these people, and quite frankly, I tried to tell Trevor that hey, this is I understand that you're close to one of these PIs. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't make that decision. And I think the timing was just bad. I mean, all these people are being punted, and about the same time I'm coming in, and it looks like I'm the hatchet man. But I don't have the authority to get rid of people.
And as we heard in earlier clips, Seth is in total control.
I think it's great that you're keeping the private eye private.
Very private.
And then and here's the thing too. It truly is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they rolled out who that private eye was, that private investigator would be equally as picked apart and harassed as everybody else. I mean, we know how it works on this platform.
That's right.
Correct.
It's like it's being crucified by public opinion. There's absolutely nothing you can do. The more you try to explain yourself, the more that they'll twist your words and you'll dig a hole even further. It's
we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
Now we've got 2 perpetual victims on panel.
Yes. Yeah, and I've said it and I stand by it. I've never seen someone that even the people that don't like Seth will say they think this man is innocent, but then they'll turn around and slay him. And it's like, we'll say, oh, I think he's struggling with his failures as a father. Well, if you truly believe that he's living in guilt about things that happened, then why do you want to add to that pain when you believe he's innocent? That's vicious. That is absolutely merciless.
Well, he should.
But I guess what is being done to Chris and Katie is just acceptable, right? Because she was the last one to see her son. Even though law enforcement has stated that there's no evidence to say that any of the parents are involved in Sebastian's disappearance. I can have empathy for Seth Rogers being the father of a missing child, but I also can see very problematic things with his own behavior and what he has done to his missing son. I will continue to go back to multiple things can be true at once.
I will tell you that my opinion, and this is only my opinion, I don't believe that Seth owes any content creator an answer to anything that he doesn't want to answer. I believe that anything that he wants to not answer or keep private should be his prerogative.
That's true.
And I believe that people that support him should respect that.
And there's probably some stuff you can't legally talk about, right? Like the law is probably mumming certain things to help the investigation. Is that right or no?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Like, I would assume that even maybe the law kind of has a little muzzle on what he should be sharing or not sharing publicly as well.
I don't know that the law is really giving him a lot of direction.
No. Okay.
I think that his direction, as far as what we should or shouldn't talk about, is kind of a group decision.
Okay. So they haven't stopped you. They
Once again, right back to the team.
haven't said anything like, hey, Tony, have him stop talking on YouTube.
Not at all.
Do you think they like that he's talking on YouTube?
Well, as of now, we have a very controlled show, a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about Sebastian and shares pictures of Sebastian.
Yes, on his YouTube channel, you mean?
Yeah, but you notice that
it's great.
Part of the reason that I talked about streamlining things is that he does not appear on on other YouTube channels right now.
He sure don't, because he came up on my panel one night. This is just like 2 weeks ago. He was like, I'm not supposed to be on panels, right? And I was like, yeah, but he only popped up to prove that he wasn't Ben George. And he did. Him and Ben spoke at the same time. And then Seth, he didn't even say bye. He just bloop.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, one of their team members is calling law enforcement corrupt, and in my opinion, wasting additional law enforcement resources that could be going to search for Sebastian Rogers. But once again, they fully support everything that Betty does.
Yeah, and I mean, I give him advice and direction, but I always tell him that, this is your son, and I'll tell you what I think should happen or shouldn't happen regarding your appearances. but it's your son and you're a big boy. And I tell him that about everything he asks me advice on. I conclude that advice by saying, but it's your call.
So giving advice is also in Tony's job description.
Part of a, does this ring a bell with you?
What was that?
Renee
No.
Lawson?
Really nice. No.
Renee
No.
Lawson?
No.
So no Teresa Mills.
And once again, people pulling names out of the air.
Okay, so there's another thing that's going around that Sebastian was in contact with Katie's mother the night before he went missing. Do you know anything about that, or?
Yes, he knows about that because he is the one that started that rumor on TikTok. I'll insert a clip here.
And then, Steven, did they tell you that they had information that Sebastian was in contact with Katie's mom?
No, I wouldn't say
Where
it
did
like
information come from?
Where did that Tony had that. Tony did.
And yes, Cindy is correct. That came from Tony.
And what is everybody in the comments? Everybody's saying something about a letter.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, what's the letter? What
Where
letter?
is it at?
Tony, do you know anything about? Everybody in the comments is talking about a letter. Do you know anything about a letter?
I think they're talking about a text. We got information that Sebastian was texting Katie's mom the night before he went missing.
The text. Okay. Do we
Yeah.
have any idea what that text said?
He was texting her about his incredible breakfast he had that day that you all heard Katie talking about.
And once again, of course, as everybody knows, this is not accurate information. Sebastian was not in contact with Katie's mom.
Is he
Hey, y'all-
normally in contact with her?
Weird. I was going to say that is so odd because I thought that there was no communication on that part of it.
Of course, it's weird because there is no factual basis for that rumor that Tony started. But listen to what he's about to say.
I will tell you that there was some speculation that happened. But I can tell you that at this point, it's hearsay.
I don't know about y'all, but that didn't sound like speculation to me, especially coming from the spokesperson of Seth Rogers, the biologic father of Sebastian. And once again, that is not correct information.
Fair enough.
And did you say what you think about the Uncle Taco, that whole weird interview he did? I mean, that was inappropriate, right?
I
Would you
told
agree?
Seth that I did not know who the person was
Yeah.
or how they were connected, but I thought it would behoove him to ask that gentleman to stay off of these channels.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good.
And I left it at that.
Yeah, because that was a terrible. Okay, that's good. Yeah, he was a terrible.
Cher, do you realize that BJ was one of the panels Uncle Taco was on?
Run around with hot dogs in their hands and shit.
Hey, you leave the hot dogs out of this, Michelle.
Seth and Ken have known each other for years and are obviously good gamer buddies. A lot of the stuff that they did talk about was inappropriate, but Cher's kind of taking it up a notch, in my opinion. I'm sure from a spokesperson's perspective, that was a nightmare to have to try and clean up. But thankfully, we are almost done.
Do you think that Uncle Taco should be investigated?
No.
No. Okay. Not that serious.
There's a difference between somebody needing to be investigated and somebody not needing to be on a platform.
Well, yeah. Well, he just the way when he's on there, so we know he played video games with Sebastian, and so I'm like, well, that's weird because here you are, you played video games with Sebastian, but then I didn't understand why he was bringing the pedo stuff up. I don't know. It was really, really weird for me. I don't remember how exactly it went. I'll have to rewatch it, but I remember thinking, okay, that guy should be investigated because why is he bringing something about child porn into a whole conversation that you were being asked about Sebastian? So that made me feel like maybe he should be investigated. So you disagree with that? He should just an idiot shouldn't have a platform.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay.
I reviewed that stream and I don't know exactly what Cher is talking
Well, I
about.
will say this. Uncle Taco did come up on my panel one night with Seth.
Do I have him just wrong? Like, am I understanding?
No, it's just even some of the jokes are inappropriate. I will say that.
Yeah.
Some of the things on my panel was not appropriate that night. But I think that Uncle Taco is a jokester. He's
That's
just a
not
big
funny
jokester, and it's
at all.
definitely not funny. Definitely not funny at all.
But if I remember correctly, Britney laughed the entire time.
You guys have to understand something. When Seth is allowed to get up on a panel and joke and be himself and decompress, because that's where he releases. If you remember when he was on your panel, Britney, there was 5 hate channels that played that live the next day and
They went
absolutely
crazy.
crucified him.
They did, and
That is my job to keep that from happening.
And what he did, that it was so, they still talk about it. He came up with Josh to actually make me feel better because I had some hate channels. I was feeling really bad, sorry for myself that night. And he actually came up to help cheer me up and was crucified.
Imagine that, Britney being upset at the beginning of a stream.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, there's just nothing you can do. Clearly, that night it was all jokes, but they took it and turned it into so much more.
And if he would have asked me before he did that, I would have said absolutely not.
Oh yeah.
Naturally, yeah.
But that's part of what I do is I look at what potentially could be laid out there the next day, the next week, whatever that is. And, he just, I don't allow him to be put in a situation where he's going to have to spend 5 days being attacked because it's not productive.
His behavior, in my opinion, was incredibly appalling, especially by using his missing child's picture as an avatar. I personally would be more concerned about how my behavior would reflect on the dignity of my missing child.
You have an hour and a half or so, however long that live was that night, you have an hour and a half or so of a guy decompressing and enjoying himself, and it turns into 5 days of attacks.
Right.
Well, sadly, we almost just listened to 3 hours of the spokesperson for Seth Rogers talk about everything but Sebastian, the missing child. I have questions about that too, because you would think that you would take any opportunity to get the focus back on the missing child and dignity for that missing child. Thankfully, we are almost done here because it has been a long, almost 3 hours.
So the reward certainly isn't worth the risk.
It is. It's sad. And it's like, but then you want to tell them, if you do apologize, they're going to hit you 10 times harder you're pretty much hanging yourself up when you apologize because
you're admitting guilt.
Exactly. You just might as well just, I don't know. I hate it. I really do. I don't think it's
right. But
right.
You had a problem with Chris Proudfoot calling in and goofing off one night.
Right. And I hope we find Sebastian. I hope, there's...
Well, here's what I don't understand. I don't understand why in the true crime community, if you don't support Seth or, wherever you stand, I don't understand why you can't just move on and cover another case instead of creating problems for the existing case.
But sometimes what you guys see is a problem is correcting the misinformation that you and your team were a part of creating. And the person that it continually goes back to hurting is Sebastian. I truly hate even thinking about the potential of him seeing all of these videos about him and his family. And I truly hope that he is found very soon.
Good point.
In the world that I live in, which this is all new to me, you have a choice as to whether or not to be involved in something. And, I look at it as if there was a child missing here in Oklahoma. If I wanted to offer to take my boat or my side-by-side and go help somebody search, I could do that. But if I didn't want to do that, I would just not do it. I wouldn't, get on a platform and, start firing arrows at a father or his team or whoever. I just simply wouldn't help.
But you also consider what Betty is doing helpful.
But Irony Rose said it best, Tony. It's clicks and views. Views.
We all know what it is. I mean, if the content creators, if you look at the views they get on a video where they're not either attacking Seth or I, and they're not, they're not mentioning Sebastian's name, or they don't attack one of us, the views go way down.
Yeah.
But if they put Sebastian's name in there, or they put TikTok Tony in there, or whatever it is they're running with that day, they get a lot more views.
Yeah.
She's agreeing with this man as he came into her live stream because he had a problem with her title and her thumbnail. And now she's agreeing with this man. Britney, come on now. Do you honestly not see that, in my opinion, he's playing you? He successfully shut you down so many times throughout this live stream by circle talking you guys into confusion.
Can you ask the landfills in Kentucky, if the landfills in Kentucky were searched? Per Shirley Chambers asking that. Do you know, Tony, if we've heard that they were searched, the landfills in Kentucky?
I don't have any idea on that, Britney.
A landfill in Kentucky was searched.
Yeah, I know Seth's watched the video many times, and I have no issue watching the video. This is what I always explain to people. If I start getting into all the facts of the case, I don't have time to do what I do for Seth.
Yeah.
So I really try to stay in my lane, and that lane's gotten a little more broad as of late. But one part of my lane has still not ever crossed into the investigative part.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I get what you're saying, because I think some people were kind of saying, well, you're the spokesperson, but you're coming at it more from like a PR position, like you're trying to keep him from speaking to the wrong person.
Correct.
Yeah, I get that. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, he's not.
In my opinion, he would be more classified as a handler for Seth and Seth's image, trying to advise him of what not to do on social media. And you can have your views of whether that is a good or a bad thing. But he is the spokesperson for Seth Rogers and is not interested in the investigative side of where is Sebastian. But it is kind of astonishing to me that he knows very little about the investigation, and he has been pretty public about his thoughts of Chris and Katie Proudfoot and doesn't even know the case. That's kind of shocking to me. But I guess in order to make their theory stick, he wouldn't be able to go with the actual evidence from law enforcement. So it might be beneficial. And you can have your opinions on who you think did what. But currently, evidence doesn't support that any of the parents were involved in Sebastian's disappearance. Could that change? Yes, but not currently. That is not where we are. Sebastian needs to be found.
And I'm not a PR guy either, right? I mean, there's a difference between public relations and a spokesperson, which is speaking for the person.
So you're an advocate for him right now.
Correct.
I think for me, the reason that it's surprising to me is just because you and Seth are so close and you're doing a lot of work helping them. I would just think that there would be a lot of interest, that you would just be curious about anything related to Seth's child.
You know, my interest is, and I can see that completely, but my number one focus is protecting Seth and his emotions. And
I actually fully agree with Jules on that.
If I asked Seth, hey brother, what do you think about this flashlight video? There's no doubt he would tell me what he thought.
Right.
But when I tell you that with a small team, you know, the spokesperson is also involved in planning events. The spokesperson is involved in getting T-shirts printed. It's not well defined. You know, but I can tell you, I see that on your screen there now. You know, the PI, I'm sure, has dug into that.
Oh yeah.
And we've got a very good PI. The PI is seasoned. And, you know, I'm confident that I don't have to swerve into that lane because we've got somebody that controls that lane.
I was extremely disappointed the first time I watched this live stream. I initially was not going to clip it down and even go over it, but the more I sat and thought about it, the more disappointed I got. Britney and her panel weren't the problem for me in this interview, or question and answer session, whatever you want to call it. Most of us following the case, we knew the answers to his questions already because we've heard him answer these same questions, such as the interview with BHB. But he was all over the place. One moment he was speaking on behalf of Seth as Seth's spokesperson, and the other moment he was stating that Seth could speak on his own. But what was the most disappointing in this for me was that there was very little discussion about Sebastian. And you would think, as the spokesperson for the father of the missing child, that they would do anything in their power to bring the focus back to the missing child and seek to have any awareness put on that missing child. Sebastian is not only missing, but he has been lost in his own story. While this young man has been missing, characters have inserted themselves in his case. And I ask you again, why? Fake neighbors, fake dog handlers, fake cousins, psychics galore, RSO searchers, child custody involvement, parents under complete surveillance. But all along, Sebastian's been missing the entire time. And we've gotten to learn more about these side characters that have never met Sebastian, have nothing to do with Sebastian's life, but found some self-serving need to interject themselves in these cases. Now you will have to make up your decision on whether you think Tony is exploiting Seth or Seth is completely in control. For me, at the end of the day, Seth is a grown man making choices. Unfortunately, some of those choices come with significant consequences. And unfortunately, some of them could have unintentional effects like harming your missing child. Because for the life of me, I cannot imagine Sebastian being okay with his mother and stepfather and grandparents being harassed and attacked by the team members of his father. I don't have any answers, but for me, this is the sad reality of these cases time and time again. We watched the families be exploited, and we watched the loved ones who are missing continue to be lost. And once again, thank you all for watching a nonsensical review. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.